We will get started in just a little bit. All right. Well, I hate to interrupt Mozart, but I'm going to do it anyway. So glad to have any of you that have an opportunity to join this evening. This was not announced. So, our gathering will probably be very small, but that's okay. We have hundreds of people afterwards that will see it posted to YouTube and will check it out. So we're going to be going over a machine that I have never introduced before on this channel. It's a more contemporary machine. It is made with the roots of royalty, which is why I started with kind of a royal flair of music, by the Husqvarna Viking sewing machine company. Now, depending on what you read on the internet, Husqvarna Viking was established as a musket barrel and arms type company dating all the way back to the 1600s. All the way back to the 1600s, right around 1689 is when this company can reach back to in manufacturing royal arms for the country. And it was around 1872 that they first began making sewing machines. And this was after a royal decree. King Augustus Gulfus is the one that is credited with, we'll just call him Kingy. The King of Sweden was credited with making a decree to establish this company that we now point to as Husqvarna. And we have a lot of followers of ours in Sweden, so it's always fun to present one of these machines. And way up on the back of the workbench, you can see our King of Sweden way up here, further up, further up, further up, further up, further up, further up. Way up there on the wall is our King of Sweden right there with a young lady next to him that actually represents the Swiss sewing machines. So apparently the Swiss and the Swedish are getting along just fine, but that's him up there. And this machine belongs to a young lady that goes by the name of Kel, Kel, and she's not terribly far from the workshop. She's in Kentucky with her family in Harlan County, and most recently was involved with a business called Jerkbeak Farms. I'm not making that up. Jerkbeak Farms, and they were involved with specialized hybrid bantams and dwarf breeds. Not even sure I know what that means, but they were involved with chickens, right? They're involved in chickens, and I'll just show you their branding mark, which I think is super cool. This is their Jerkbeak chicken, apparently riding a motorcycle right there. I mean, it just makes you want to meet the chicken, doesn't it? Pretty cool, pretty cool. But I told Cal after she reached out about this machine that I thought I could get it. I thought I could get it working. There had been a number of hands that had tried to tinker on it. There had been a number of hands that had taken bolts out and did not replace them. Had tried to pry the faceplate cover off. It's a little bit tricky to get this cover off so you can service and do necessary adjustments and repairs on the machine. And someone, who knows, maybe it was one of the Jerkbeak chickens, had gotten a screwdriver and was trying to pry the back of this faceplate off. But at any rate, long and short story is I was able to get this machine back to where it needed to be, back to greatness, back to a point where it's ready to get the job done. It's ready to get the job done. So I'm delighted. And it looks like we have somebody. I'm looking at the live chat, maybe somebody from France. Looks like somebody from France may be joining us. And folks are having a lot of trouble getting into the live stream today. I don't know why. It looks like our internet is doing okay, but we have somebody that tried to join, and yeah, I think it's from France. Bonjour, comment allez-vous? Yes, it's always great to have folks from around the world join on these live streams. Let me see. I was going to look up some of the pictures I took of working on this machine. Let me see if I can do that. Just bear with me for a second as I scroll through here. I used to do this all the time. I used to show progress shots of me taking a machine through the various steps. I think I'll do that real quick. I haven't done that for a while. See if I can get behind the camera here. Where is it? The camera is like pointing all over the place. So there's Kel's machine on the workbench. And I'll just flip through some quick progress shots, give you an idea of what we did. That's not the right one. There we go. Starting to focus right away on the faceplate area and also on the raceway. For not a lot of use, Kel said that this machine sat on a shelf for about 6 years because shortly after getting it, they had issues with the machine. Like I said, a number of people tried to tinker on it without much success. And the result is she ended up finding me on the internet, and I was able to jump in and try to make a difference for her, trying to make a difference for this machine. And there is one of the openings that hold the faceplate on. When I took the plug out, there was no bolt in there. Someone had taken the bolt out and never replaced it. So I ended up having to search out a replacement bolt. So once I got done servicing it, there you can see an empty space, no bolt. And there's the rear of the machine. Got the faceplate off now, and it did not require dynamite or prying on it. You just have to know how to take it off. There you can kind of see the innards of the faceplate area. A lot of things to service on this Emerald Model 116. A lot of things to service. Getting into the machine, I'll just flip through these quick. You can see the guts of the machine and the different components that need to be oiled and greased and adjusted. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. There's the machine with the top and the bottom off. Now, if you take a machine like this to a sewing vac, similar to the ones that would be up in Wisconsin, they're not going to dig this deep into the machine. They just aren't. You're going to be sorely disappointed because they're not going to get the job done. They're not going to get the job done, and they're not going to do a thorough job. But when you come to our workshop, we dig into that machine and try to really, really do a comprehensive service to maximize and to get that machine back to better than factory. Bottom of the machine, lots of things to service and adjust down there. It goes on and on and on and on. There's the motor. Now, I'll just ask all of you, if you don't know how big the motor is on this Husqvarna Viking Emerald 116, there's the motor right there. It looks like a pretty big motor, doesn't it? You'll be surprised. It's I would say a mid-range motor, but it's not huge. It's not even as big as Emma's Elna Lotus SP model that we did recently. That's smaller than a featherweight. So if anyone has any guesses as to the size of the motor, type that into the live chat. There's part of the assembly that you have to grease. There's the motor. You can kind of see the motor there. Dual belts on this machine. Some damage to the faceplate. This is becoming a common occurrence where folks will get anxious when the material is feeding, and they'll either push it or pull it. And you don't want to do that. When you try to push or pull material on a sewing machine, you're kind of overpowering the feed dogs and the presser foot. And the result is that needle will flex because you're pushing that needle at the same time you're pulling the material or pushing the material. And that needle will travel outside the normal path of the throat plate. And when that happens, the needle ends up striking the throat plate. You can see it right there, those scar marks on there. And that creates a lot of havoc in the sewing process because as the thread is feeding out of the bobbin case from below, it gets caught on those metal barbs that are created by the needle striking it. And you have all kinds of sewing issues at that point. There you can really see a close-up of that on Kel's machine. Some serious damage. The one on the upper left is, all the way through. So it shows you that whatever size motor this Husqvarna has, it punched right through all the way from one side to the other and created a real big damage trail. Different shot of it, pretty much the same thing. Green screen. Now I wish. There I'm kind of using an air compressor. You want to use air compressors very, very conservatively on a sewing machine and use them strategically. I say that because air compressors are a great tool. They're very convenient. They do blow the lint and stuff out of the machine. But if you don't do it properly, you actually drive that lint deeper into the machine where you've got some critical gears and some other mechanical components that need to move, and you jam them up with all of that crud that you're trying to blow out of the machine. It doesn't leave the machine. It goes deeper into the machine. So be careful about that. If you're using either canned air or using something else like that, you want to really, really be cautious that you look at the direction that debris is going to go if you use air to try to move it. It's requires a lot more thought than one would think. Otherwise, you can make the situation worse. You can see up here, I replaced Kel's light. She had an incandescent. We put a bright LED in there. We lubricated the auto threader and everything else. Also found some thread that had got wrapped around the needle bar. There you can see I pulled it out, which was creating some restriction. There we went from the old to the new. And any of you that haven't taken that pilgrimage yet of going from incandescent to LED, I would strongly recommend you consider doing it. You reduce the heat dramatically and you multiply the illumination on the bed and at the needle by about 4 to 5 times. So you don't need as much auxiliary lighting. You've got this light right on the machine. You can kind of see it in the backdrop there, glowing off of the bed of the machine. I'll just go through these real quick because I know everybody's anxious to see this machine actually do some sewing. Once I get the camera lined up with it. Aha. There I'm doing some adjustments on the upper tension on this machine and also the other one that was made by Necky that I presented recently that belongs to Cindy. They have the upper tension enclosed inside of the case of the machine adjacent to the needle bar. That sometimes gets crud in there. And sometimes if you're towing the thread in the wrong way, you can actually bend that spring and send it out of its normal travel path. So I'm doing some tests on it right now to make sure that that spring is moving smoothly and also servicing the spring and cleaning it as well. So more of that cleaning and servicing. There I'm using some targeted combination of kerosene, which again, kerosene is a natural inhibitor to rust. And it is wonderful lasting powers of lubrication, well beyond what sewing machine oil does. So I usually use a mix of 50-50 on a sewing machine. So it gets the benefits of long lasting lubrication. And also it reduces the likelihood of any rust developing in that machine. But again, you can see the depth that I'm going. You would never, ever get this level of service at a sew and vac. You just wouldn't. They don't have the time. They wouldn't make any money on the job. And they just pretty much don't have the knowledge of what to do. I'll go through these kind of quick. More lubrication at the critical points on the machine. Now we're going to grease the critical areas on the machine as well. And a lot of the manufacturers will tell you, including Husqvarna and Necky, that you don't need to put grease on these gears. That's a bunch of malarkey. They're telling you that so that your gears will prematurely wear out and you'll have to replace that sewing machine and buy another one. You always, always, always want to grease any areas that are meshing together, whether they're plastic or metal. And it doesn't have to be super heavy, but you want to put that on there as a buffer so that it reduces friction, it increases fluidity of the movement of the gears, and it extends the life of that sewing machine dramatically. And yes, I get my fingers into the job too. It's kind of fun. It's like playing with finger painting when we were little kids. Did any of you ever do any finger painting? I know I did. There we go. We're kind of putting a light layer of our specialized proprietary grease that Cow Country developed. And you might remember all of the leadership team, all of the leadership team members were able to pick their own color of grease, and I sent them their own proprietary grease out to them back. Well, it's been a number of years ago, I guess. There we go. Yeah. I'll go through these rather fast because you can also, well, I didn't post them on Facebook. I was going to say you can go to Facebook and look at them, but I didn't post these on Facebook. And I also check when I'm going through a sewing machine like this, especially knowing that someone had tinkered on it, I go through and I check every single screw that I can reach on the machine inside and out and make sure that they're all snugged up properly. Yeah, greasing everything that needs to be greased, oiling everything that needs to be oiled. There's our bobbin case, which, by the way, see all that stuff caked up on there? I call it all the time when we're talking about the bobbin case in the raceway area, it's the brain center. it's the creative space where those stitches are formed and finalized. So the cleaner that is, the more it's running smoothly, the better quality stitches you're going to get. So we get rid of every bit of dirt that I can possibly get out of there. There you can see some of it we picked up on the Q-tip swab there. And it was right down there where the bobbin would be trying to turn. Feed dog area. Anyway, you get the idea. You get the idea. And there I'm working on that damage that was caused by needle strikes to the throat plate. If you want to try to clean yours up, if you used to be a pusher or a puller, when it comes to material feed on your sewing machine, you can get 1,000 grit sandpaper and carefully work that surface to get rid of those metal barbs, so that when that thread comes up from the bobbin case, it's not going to get snagged on there and create a lot of problems. And I'm just showing you some different phases. There it is after I went over it for quite a while and got that as smooth as I could without reducing the metal too far. And then we've got a surface that's going to really, really allow that machine to do its magic. Doesn't that look a lot better? It's like night and day. Yeah. You can get an idea of the thoroughness of the service. And the final result is when I get to the finish line of the service, then I sew on the machine for the first time. And that's the kind of stitches that this machine generates now. And we're going to be duplicating nearly every one of those on this live stream tonight. Aren't those gorgeous stitches? That's me being goofy. Kel kept calling me Doc. She kept calling me Doc. So I put on my stethoscope and I was putting it on her Emerald 116, checking to make sure everything was good to go. Oh, there's the puppies. I'll show you the puppies at the same time. Susie and I were having a late dinner last night. And the puppies came over to see if we had anything for them. That's Maya. Maya is our female Labrador. And believe it or not, she's only a little bit over a year old and she's about 110 pounds. That was Hank. That's Hank in the background, kind of looking on. There's Hank. Isn't she gorgeous? What a sweetheart. What a sweetheart. There's Hank. Hank's probably about 120 pounds. He's a big boy and he's still growing. Susie said he's getting taller and taller and taller. So at any rate, all I can say is there's no one else in the world that I know of. There's no one else in the world that goes as deep into the sewing machine as I do. And it's because I want to do it right. I want that customer to get that machine back and know that every aspect of that machine was touched. Every aspect of that machine was cleaned, serviced, adjusted. And that machine is probably, I would say, better than when it came out of the factory. That's what I'm told all the time, anyway, by people that enjoy the benefits of the cow country way. So, at any rate, let's start the class. And we'll get going and do some sewing on this Husqvarna Viking. Again, a company that has roots that go all the way back to the 1600s. They had the roots of their existence over 200 years by the time Singer came on the scene. They weren't making sewing machines right away back in 1689. They didn't start making sewing machines until 1872, about 20 plus years after Singer, but they were a royal declared company or an entity, I should say, much, much, much earlier than any other sewing machine company in the world. So Husqvarna Viking has a legacy that really is brag-worthy. And I should mention, so I don't forget, that the owner of this machine, Kel, that used to do the chicken thing. This again, if you joined us a little bit late, this was her card for the chicken stuff that they were doing, raising chicks and all that, kind of a chick on a motorcycle. Her husband, Chris, loves Harley Davidsons, and they just love motorcycles in general. So when they came up with their company, I think they said right away, we got to put a chicken on a motorcycle. We got to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to put a chicken on a motorcycle. So they did that. And only recently, Kel and Chris decided they were going to retire from the chicken world and enjoy life and do other things. And that's what kind of brought Kel to looking at that machine that had been sitting on the shelf for almost 6 years, and said, I got to do something with that machine. I got to find somebody that can make it right again. And that's how we met. So I didn't look at the live chat. But if anyone guessed or threw guesses out about the size of the motor on this Husqvarna Viking Emerald Model 116, if anyone said 0.6 amps, which is the same size as that Necky machine that we recently did a live stream of on this channel, then you nailed it. Give yourself a pat on the back. This Husqvarna Viking has a 0.6 amp motor. It's a robust motor, but I wouldn't say that this machine is really designed to do super heavy duty. So you're not going to see me going crazy and going through multiple layers of leather because this machine really is more of a light duty machine. It's great for embroidery type sewing. It's great for some quilting, and but I wouldn't use it for a lot of heavy leather sewing. It wasn't engineered to do that. So put it to work, but just don't beat it into the ground, because the Emerald 116 is a jewel that you should cherish and not overwork, if that makes sense. Yeah, you don't want to overwork this machine. Yeah, so Susie had put down 0.8 amps. It's actually 0.6 amps for this Husqvarna Viking Emerald 116. 0.6 amps. All right, so let's get into this, because some of you don't know it, but I'm going to be taking, I'll be taking a road trip starting tomorrow, and I need to get ready for that. I think I just took a video of the table. What am I doing? Ha! I took a video of the table. I have no idea why. All right, let me see if I can get this going, and hopefully you'll find out that this machine sews and makes it look easy. Yeah. All right, let me turn it around and we'll put this machine to work. Yeah, Husqvarna Viking has got to be one of my favorite sewing machines of all time. I've got to get it. The only criticism I have of this machine, if it's a fair criticism, is the cord for the foot controller is way, way, way too short. I've got to move this machine all the way to the edge of this extension table I use. I usually use this table for doing packing of machines once they're done. I usually use this table for packing, and I've got it right to the edge practically. You can see that right there, because the cord is just too short on the Emerald 116. So hopefully Cal, when she gets this machine back out in Harlan County, she has a table that isn't quite as high as this one, because it really, really makes it tough. It really, really makes it tough to get that foot controller all the way flat on the ground. I've got it held down right now with a weight. You kind of see that right there. I've got it held down by a weight on the floor so that it doesn't flop around and tip over and do something funky, Now, I promised Kel as well, since this machine has been sitting on a shelf for the last 6 years, and Kel was busy with the chicken farming and all that sort of thing, and she hasn't had a chance to really revisit this machine. I told her I would do a little bit of a tutorial. So I'm going to cover that real quick before we jump in and start sewing on the machine, so that if anyone else has an Emerald 116 by Husqvarna Viking, they can also benefit from learning more about the machine than they may have known before. So since we're facing this way, why don't we just start right here? This is going to be your presser foot controller right here. And you can see right now I've got it set on 2. I could turn it down to 1. I can turn it all the way up to 3 right there. You don't want to turn it to 0 unless you're possibly doing free motion quilting or freehand embroidery. And then you're going to have the presser foot off anyway, in all likelihood. So, why ever, you simply don't want to put it on 0. So a good mid-range point is 2. That's where I've got it right now. And again, you just turn this clockwise or counterclockwise. I think you can go either way. Let me just double check that. Hold on a second. 0, 1. Yeah, why don't you just go clockwise? 2, where I could turn it all the way up to 3. 3 is going to be max for presser foot pressure. So anyone in the audience that wants to explain what is, yeah, you can go counterclockwise too. It turns either way. If anyone wants to explain what is the big deal about presser foot pressure, if you ignore it or you don't use it at all, we had a recent customer that came in with a machine. It looked like their throat plate on their needle plate cover had been shot by a shotgun. It had that many needle strikes on it. And I came to understand from talking to the customer that she didn't realize inside of the faceplate there was a presser foot adjuster lever, and she had never been shown that lever. When she bought the machine, they didn't explain any of the features or the functions of the machine, so she never used that presser foot pressure, and it was set on 0. So it tells you right away why that customer had so many needle strikes on the throat plate. She had 0 presser foot pressure. How do you even sew? How do you even sew with no presser foot pressure? The only way you sew is by yanking or pushing that material, which is exactly what she was doing. So she was absolutely liberated when she got that machine back, and she all of a sudden understood that that lever was inside of the faceplate. She understood how it worked. She understood the significance of it, and all of a sudden could put that to work and could stop pulling and pushing the material and just enjoy the machine and let those feed dogs and that presser foot go to work for her. That's why they're there. They're there to work for you, but you've got to give them every opportunity to do that. And they can't do it when they're set on 0. They can't do anything really set at 0. So you got to help them out, and you got to do that for them. So the front of the machine, and I'll just explain a few things, and then we'll get to work on this machine. And it looks like people are having connectivity issues, kind of like we did the other day when we were presenting the Guggenheim products that were available at the request of Stephen. We kept dropping off and dropping on and coming off. So if any of you are having connectivity issues, we feel your pain. We had that the other day, and up here in the mountains, we regularly can have internet issues. Even though we're using Spectrum, which is a state-of-the-art company, nature and elements can play havoc on your internet, can't they? So hang in there. Just keep trying to rejoin the live stream. We'd love for you to be a part of it. Otherwise, if internet just won't cooperate with you, go ahead and watch this as a video afterwards so you can learn more about this great Husqvarna Viking Emerald 116, okay? All right. So let me go to the front of the machine, and I'll kind of walk you through a couple things real quick, and then we'll get into sewing on this machine so you can see her go to work. All right, so let me sit down on my little chair. We'll come around to the front of the machine. Hopefully my cord is long enough. I think it is. So over here, we've got a control. Well, actually, let me go to the very top of the machine. First of all, we do have a handle that's built in, so you can carry the machine. You don't have to cradle it and hope that you don't drop it. You just grab this handle, and you've got a safe way to move this machine around. Up here, you've got stitch width, but when you're set on a straight stitch, on this Emerald 116, and the way you do that is you take your stitch selector right here, and you set it on 1. Setting it on 1 is going to put you on a straight stitch. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. Once you're set on a straight stitch, this particular little dial up here becomes your needle position selector. So if you rotate this to the left, you can have a left needle position. If you rotate it to the right, a right needle position, or if you move it to right about where I have it right now, it's just shy of 4, then you're going to have a center needle position. And that's only when you're set on straight stitch. So this dial does width control when you're set on anything other than a straight stitch. And when you're set on a straight stitch, it's going to give you needle position. And looking at the internet, there's a lot of people that did not know that. There were a number of people writing in, and no one had the answer as to, does the Emerald 116 have the ability so you can set the needle position? The answer is yes, absolutely. It absolutely gives you a needle position selection. You use the stitch width dial and you set the machine on straight stitch, and then you can decide where that needle is going to be. This control right here, again, is to select the stitch that you want. And there's two tiers of stitches on this Emerald 116. On the top tier, you've got a straight stitch, a zigzag, you've got a 3-point zigzag, a couple of different blind hem stitches. You've got the building block stitch that I call it, and then you've got the heartbeat stitch, as I refer to it. And then on the bottom tier, you've got all of these to choose as well. You've got a stretch, straight stitch. You've got all these other cool stitches right here, and you can make up your own names for the stitches. Never, ever go with what the manual says they're called, because that's just boring. That's absolutely boring. You can make up your own stitch names, just as Jenny was doing the last time. One of our leadership team members started typing in the live chat all the names of the stitches for the machine that I was working on, and I didn't realize she was messing with me, was joking around. I finally caught on, and she says, I just made those up, and they were great names. So you can look at these stitches and come up with your own names, and yeah, why not? It's your machine. Yeah, your machine, your rules, right? So this control right here, again, is for stitch selection. And you've got an opportunity to also do button holding on this machine over here as well. Down here, you've got stitch length. And it's also going to give you access to that. Wait, there we are. This is going to be our stitch length controller. And it's also going to give you access to that lower tier of specialty stitches by setting it in this range between this plus minus right here. So when we go to sew some of these stitches on the lower tier, we're going to be setting the stitch length somewhere in this range right here to be able to access them. And then you've also got a default setting here for buttonholes, as you do up here on the stitch selector controller here. You've got reverse right here. And you also have an easy access pullout here that's going to give you the proper settings for all the specialty feet that you can put on this Husqvarna Viking. I only have the universal zigzag foot that Kel sent with the machine, but she probably has all these other specialty feet, and then it tells you what you need to set on the machine to make those work. And the reason you have to set the stitch width and the stitch settings is because if you don't, that needle is going to be hitting that specialty foot. It's only going to have so much space for that needle to clear, and it gives you this easy access tip sheet so you set it properly so you don't damage your specialty presser foot attachment. So, and it just slides away when you don't need it right there. Okay. You also got a ruler for measuring as well, which is always helpful. Now, threading this machine is pretty easy, I think. Pretty doggone easy. When we come off the top, and I didn't have the little spool retainer tab thing. Kel must have that back home right here. There should be a little plastic piece that slides on here to hold that spool steady. So she'll add that once the machine comes back home. but you'll follow it across. Just like on the necky, you'll snap that thread into this from the rear of this right here into here. You'll hear it kind of click in. You'll drop down through this little channel right here, past the upper tension control. You can see we're set on 7 right now. When the machine came in, someone had messed around with the bobbin case, or the factory set it in inappropriately. They cranked it up way too high. So when this is cranked up way too high, you have to crank this up crazy high. And I still couldn't get a decent lock stitch, even turning it all the way up to 9. So I had to adjust the bobbin case down here. And then I was able to stay within a reasonable range on the upper tension control. 7 is a real good spot to be. It still gives you the range to be able to go up on certain materials or to go down on certain materials as well. But again, as you're coming off the top, you drop down in this channel, you come around the bottom here, you come back up this channel, and you go through the take-up arm, you drop back down again. And when you drop back down again, I'm going to get down on my hands and knees. You'll come through that same channel right here. And then you drop down here to the needle bar area. There's a place right here you need to draw the thread in. Hopefully you can see that. You draw it in from left to right. And then you'll be threading the needle from front to back. Now, part of the reason I say that this is a light duty machine is you'll notice that it has an easy way to pop off the foot. You just kind of pull it down and forward a little bit, and it just pops off. But you'll see that the shank of the presser foot that attaches to the presser foot bar is actually a polymer. It's a plastic. So right away, when you see a shank coming off of the presser foot bar that is plastic or polymer, you know that this machine is a light duty machine. Normally, this would be metal. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't get the job done. That doesn't mean it's not quality. It just means it's giving you a message of what's the appropriate use of this machine. And this polymer tells me right away, don't beat this machine like it's a super duper, light industrial machine. It's designed for embroidery machine, quilting, and light projects, not crazy heavy duty projects. Okay. When you're threading the bobbin, you're going to drop the bobbin in. You can actually take this little plastic cover off. You push this out. The little door pops up like that. And you can see that I've got a bobbin in there. And you simply have the thread coming over the top, kind of like the diagram shows right here. Hopefully you can see that. There's the diagram. You drop the bobbin in with the thread coming over the top, and then you draw the thread into that thread point so it goes underneath that tensioner band right there. So you kind of come in from, let me use my pointer thing. You come in from right about there, and you draw the thread back all the way to the rear of the machine. And it kind of snaps into place. And then just rotate your balance wheel. You can pull that thread up, and then you can jump in and have some fun. Yeah. See if I can do this one-handed. Hopefully. Maybe not. Yeah. Ha. So, and again, auto needle threader. You can see that right there. There's also another control in the back. You can barely see it. It's right over there by my finger. But that is also related to buttonholing. And you can check your owner's manual to see how best to use this little thing. It pulls straight down, and then it's going to help you to execute those buttonholes when you want to do that. It's also a free arm machine. I'll kind of rotate this down. It's a free arm machine. So you just grab this right here. It's also got a little accessory tray that you can open up. The only accessory that that Kel sent with it is this right here for doing buttonholes. Hopefully she has all the other accessories and the specialty feet back home, tucked away somewhere. But you just grab the end like this, and you just pull it away, and you can access it then for doing cuffs or something like that. But again, like the necky machine, you can see how wide it is. This would not be a suitable machine for doing, free arm type work on children's clothes or something that's real small. You're just not going to be able to fit it over here. And the vintage Husqvarnas, which Kel had seen those, she had seen the green machines, or as I call them, the Swedish beauties. And she was saying to Chris, hey, look at this. So who knows? Maybe at some point, Kel will reach out and say, "Can you help me get a Swedish beauty from the 1950s? Maybe maybe a 21A or a 19E or something like that." And I'd be happy to do that. But I've got a lot of other machines in the meantime to take care of, including the Swedish beauty that I've got to get on working with our friends from New York, Candido and Rachel. Yeah, I've got to get that machine done. Got to get it done. So much to do in so little time. You know what I mean? So little time. All right. So after that blah, blah, blahing, you now know hopefully a lot more about this Model 116, referred to by Husqvarna Viking as the Emerald. It really is a jewel of a machine. And I think you're going to see that on the sew-offs today. I think you will. All right. So let me adjust the camera a little bit. Actually, that's a pretty good shot right there. It's a pretty doggone good shot. And we will do some stitching on this machine, and I'll do my best to show you as we're going. What I'm doing, how I'm setting the machine, and all of that, so that you have that knowledge and you have that comfort zone in working with your own machine as well. Okay? All right, so give me just a second. I'm going to get a sip of tea, and then we'll jump into this Husqvarna Viking Emerald Model 116. I don't know how to say 116 in Swedish. I wish I did. If you scroll all the way towards the earlier part of the live chat, we had someone that had joined us. It looked like they were, based on them saying bonjour, they were from France. So hopefully our friends from France that were trying to join the live stream are able to get back in again and be able to participate and learn about this machine, and we can get to know them. Isn't that the best part of the live streams? We get to know new people and make new friends. Yeah, why not? All right. So let me do this. Let me grab some tea, and then we'll jump into this. Susie has really made me a diehard tea drinker. I love tea, but I also like my coffee too. I love my coffee. All right. Okay, let's do a straight stitch, and then we'll jump into some of the other stitches on this machine that belongs to Kel. So again, we're already set for a straight stitch. We already got our stitch selector on one. And what we have to decide now is what stitch length do we want for this straight stitch? I'm going to go to, excuse me, and we have a little mark right here at the 12 o'clock position. Hopefully you can see that. It's a tiny little dot right about there. So we're set at 3 right now. I think I'm going to go to about a 3.5. I don't have to go all the way to 4. We'll lay down a straight stitch, and then we'll go all the way down the series of stitches here. And then we'll jump down to tier 2 and see if we can do some of those stitches as well, including the stretch straight stitch, which is really a pretty, I call it a pearlized stitch. It really is quite lovely. Oh, I didn't show you. I apologize. I didn't show you. If you're going to wind a bobbin, you're going to go from the spool right here, and you're going to go around this tensioner, just like this, back over here. You push this over to engage it to the balance wheel, and then you have to grab the balance wheel on the end, and you have to pull it out. It doesn't auto disengage. So when you push this over, pull this out, and then when you're done winding a bobbin, push that back in again, okay? Someone watches this and they go, hey, you taught us a lot, Scott. Thank you. But you never showed us what you need to do to wind a bobbin. So now I covered that base, thankfully. Okay. So let me get some material. We'll do a straight stitch, and then we'll kind of go down and do some other stitching beyond that. All right. So I'm going to get my material in place. Hopefully this LED light doesn't play havoc with us. There we go. Presser foot is down. I'm going to back up the camera a little bit, see if we get a better view of the presser foot. There we go. Yeah, that's a little clearer. All right, so I'm going to try to work my way around this foot controller. Again, after spending a lot of time with this machine, the only criticism I have is, doggone it, give us more cord with the presser foot, or not with the presser foot, excuse me, with the pedal, with the foot controller. The foot controller cord is so doggone short. It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. All right, so straight stitch, and then we'll move on to some of the other stitching. Make sure I've got everything. Oh, I better get my take-up arm all the way up. Right now I can see my take-up arm, sort of, kind of, you can see through there. It's way at the bottom. So I'm just going to grab that balance wheel, and I'm going to turn it, and 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 turn it. There we go. You always want to launch like this. That take-up arm should be all the way at the top and just beginning the downstroke. See that? Just beginning the downstroke. And then you won't get any binding of the machine's mechanics. It'll launch beautifully. Okay, here we go. A straight stitch with this Model 116 Emerald. Here we go. All right. Pull this out. Yeah, very, very nice. Very nice. And I would recommend, as you're pulling this thread and you're getting ready to clip it, pull it to the rear, and that way you're not flexing that needle. Just draw that material to the rear, and then it won't be bending that needle as you're trying to get that material moved out. All right, we pull it back through. Yeah, very nice. Looks like we might need to adjust that upper tension just slightly. I see a little bit of a tilt on some of the stitches, but we're just going to keep marching through, and then we'll look at all the stitches once we're done. I'm going to slide the material back in. Now let's lay it on a zigzag. Let's lay it on a zigzag next to this straight stitch. Get that presser foot down. We're going to go back over to our stitch selector. Now we need to move our stitch selector here. We need to move this to 2. So I'm going to move that over to 2. And you'll see as well. Oops, let me do this. Hold on one second. Get that lined up properly. My knob is stuck. What's going on with this? Don't be naughty. Don't be naughty here. You were cooperating the whole time. Now you need to cooperate, okay? Oh, I bet you I know what it is. Hold on a second. I bet you I know what it is. I did a replacement. I did a replacement bolt on here. It was not OEM, but it was suitable to work. And I bet you it's a little bit too long, and it's interfering with me being able to adjust the stitch selector. So I'm going to have to pull that bolt out and make a modification on it. Hold on just a second. This is actually a real good thing to see, because sometimes when you make a change to a machine, you think it's going to be inconsequential, but then all of a sudden you discover that it isn't. So I'm going to take this little plug out. I'm going to use one of my little tools, and I'll address this issue after the live stream. I'll make that bolt a little bit shorter, because right now it's interfering with the needle bar being able to move. Grab one of my screwdrivers. I'm going to back this screw out. Yep, that's exactly what it was. See that? Sometimes a teacher, always a student. So if you, like Kel, end up losing the screw that holds the faceplate on, and you get an aftermarket one on, And I'd even put a number of washers on here to push it further out. Uh, you still might have to do some adjustments on it in order to get that full range when you start moving that needle bar as far as clearing that bolt in the faceplate area. Hopefully that did it. Let's see if I can make all the changes I want to make now. And I'll leave these within reach, and then I'll address that before Kel's family picks up that machine tomorrow. It's a real simple thing. It's just making that bolt a little bit shorter because the tolerance in the space inside of the faceplate area, if that bolt goes in too far and that needle bar is trying to move to do a zigzag or something like that, it's not going to allow you to do it. It's not going to even allow you to change. And now it's changing beautifully. It was basically stuck before. So it's great to discover this now. And that's why I love presenting machines, because the slightest thing, adding a bolt to the end of the faceplate, can all of a sudden create a major issue with that machine being able to function properly. Yeah. Sometimes a teacher, always a student. All right. All right. Now it's moving beautifully. It was basically jammed before. So if that happens to you, check your bolt. Make sure it's not screwed in too far, or that it's not too long, I should say. Okay. All right. So we'll do a zigzag now. I've got the stitch selector on 2. Just making sure. Yep. Got it on 2. And let's see, now instead of being needle position, since we're not on straight stitch anymore, now this is going to serve as stitch width. So I'm going to adjust this a little bit. I think we'll go to a stitch width of 4, and we'll go to a stitch length of about 3.5. And now we'll try to lay down that zigzag next to the straight stitch that we already did. All right. Oops, I just bumped that foot controller. Come back over, you silly thing. All right. So now we'll try to lay down that zigzag next to this one. Okay? All right, here we go. Yeah, very nice. Pushing the camera back a little bit so we can see that, hopefully. Yeah, very, very nice zigzag. I'm just going to check our lock stitching is looking really good as well, even at a super wide zigzag. Yeah, we'll just keep plugging along, and then we'll look at all these stitches together. Now that I've resolved the mystery bolt issue, the mystery bolt issue. I figured what it was right away, but you don't anticipate that. All right, so let me give this a clip, and we'll move into the next stitch, which is going to be, looks like a 3-point zigzag, a 3-point zigzag stitch. And the only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to shorten up that stitch length a little bit, and I'll turn our stitch selector here over to 3. So we're on our 3-point zigzag now. We've got a width of 4. I'll leave it on 4. Our stitch length is at right around 3.5. We're going to make that shorter for this 3-point zigzag. We're going to bring it down to right about 2. And now we'll do that 3-point zigzag next. Hopefully you can see that. LED lights are great, but they do play havoc on cameras a little bit. Okay, so a 3-point zigzag. I'll get my take-up arm all the way up. And we'll lay down this next stitch line. Here we go. So that's our 3-point zigzag. I should have made that even shorter. I should have made that even a little bit shorter to kind of tighten it up a little bit, but it's a lovely, lovely stitch. And the lock stitch is spot on as well. Again, the lock stitching was just really playing havoc on this machine because someone had tightened that adjusting screw on the bobbin case too far. But we're getting a real nice balance right now. Again, rotate that take-up arm all the way up and then draw that material to the rear so that you're not having to flex that needle. And after the 3-point zigzag, we're going to be doing a couple of different blind hem stitches. We're going to be doing a standard blind hem, and then we're going to be doing a stretch blind hem as well. I think it's a stretch blind hem. We'll see when we sew it. All right, let me get that material in place. And now we're going to be taking our stitch selector, which we can actually turn now because we adjusted that bolt in the end. It was too far in. We pushed that bolt out a little bit. And we're going to adjust it to 4 now, which is going to give us this type of stitch right here. I can't quite see my laptop screen, so hopefully you can see that. And we're going to adjust our stitch length down just a little bit further, right about to 1.5. And we'll lay down this next stitch, which I believe is a type of a blind hem, but we'll see shortly. We'll do this blind hem stitch next. All right, here we go. Yeah, very, very nice. It's a beautiful stitch, isn't it? You can kind of see the totality of it right there. So far we've done a straight stitch, a zigzag, a 3-point zigzag, and now it looks like probably a stretch blind hem stitch, And now we're going to be doing 2 more types of blind hem stitches that are going to be mirroring each other. One's going to be facing left, the other one's going to be facing right. And there certainly are benefits for you doing that. So I'm going to take my take-up arm all the way up. You can't see that. I'm going to draw this to the rear so that it's not stretching that needle. Okay. Do that. Quick clip on this, and we'll jump into that next stitch. There we go. And again, we just take our stitch selector. Right now we're on stitch number 4, which is this one right here that we just did, just above my finger. And now we're going to be doing these 2 blind hem type stitches where they're going to be kind of pointing opposite directions. So we'll take our stitch selector and go from 4 up to 5. And then we have to decide about our stitch length down here. We want to stay the same. Yeah, we'll probably just go just a tiny little bit shorter. I like to have the blind hem stitches really, really tight and uniform, kind of like you're seeing here. I don't want them too stretched out and too wonky looking. I like them to be nice and tight. Kind of move the table closer to the foot controller here. Boy, that cord is short. Husqvarna Viking, I know that you follow us on Facebook and you follow us on YouTube. So if you do a remake of the Emerald 116, give us more cord with the foot controller, would you, please? Yeah, do that. All right. See how close I can get here without the thing blurring. It's actually better back there, isn't it? We'll leave it right about there. Okay, so we've got stitch number 5 on. Let me just double check. Yep, stitch number 5. We'll do this stitch and then we'll do the mirror image of it so it's facing the opposite way. All right, here we go. And that's what that looks like right there. You see that? Yeah, that's a lovely stitch, isn't it? Kind of rotate that up. We'll draw that back. We'll do the opposing image now, kind of a mirror image of the same stitch, which is going to be stitch number 6. Stitch number 6. Well, I hope all of you are doing well this evening. We had a little bit of a surprise. This is only November. Right? And the day before last, we had the equivalent of a mini snowstorm up here in the mountains. You may have seen that on the Weather Channel or wherever, that Kentucky, southeastern Kentucky, got whacked by a storm. And unlike when you're up in the north area of Minnesota, Wisconsin, where you have to get a lot of snow in order to shut things down, down this way, if you get 1 to 2 inches of snow, it's almost like an emergency. And because they don't have the equipment, they don't have the resources to remove the snow or to deal with the black ice and that. So the schools shut down. Schools were shut down today after just a couple of inches of snow. And that's the reality when you're in an environment where snow is not very common. For this part of the country, the average snow, I'm going to shut that light off for a second so you can see the stitches more easily. Well, maybe not. There we go. Isn't this a great stitcher? And you would expect it from a company like Husqvarna Viking. Stitch quality is what they're all about. So yeah, so schools were closed today. You could hear the kids across the hollow or the ravine or whatever it is, kind of making all kinds of ruckus, probably driving their mom or dad crazy. Yeah, it's what kids are supposed to do. So let's see. Stitch number 6 is what we're going to now. It's going to be the opposing view of the same stitch. We'll leave everything else the same way. And now we'll lay down the mirror image or the opposite image of the one that we just did. Get my take-up arm all the way up. All right, here we go. This table that I have the machine on is very, very strong, but it's got a little bit of a jiggle wiggle to it. So if you see the jiggle wiggle factor going on, that's because I don't have it on a solid wood workbench. I've got it on a table, kind of a pop-up table. So there's the opposing stitch that we just laid down. Really quite lovely, isn't it? You could do all kinds of things, maybe with an edge or kind of bordering something off by putting these back to back. They're really quite lovely. Really quite a lovely look. And again, if you have kind of a bias about newer machines, you're getting a taste, just like on that necking machine, of just how beautifully these machines are able to sew. They really do a lovely job. And this is not a computerized machine, it's a mechanical machine. So it's got a lot of that same technology that a lot of our vintage machines have as well. A lot of that same technology and design. All right, let me take these threads back. Give those a clip. And now we're going to move into our last stitch. No, I'm sorry. We're going to move into our last 2 stitches that are on the tier 1 of this model 116 Emerald machine. I think we're going to be doing the mountain stitch now, as I call it. The mountain stitch is this stitch right up here that's in orange. Hopefully you can see that. We'll do the mountain stitch, and then after the mountain stitch, we're going to do kind of the EKG stitch, I guess is what it would be. The EKG stitch. So stitch number 7 and 8, and then we'll move down to tier number 2, and we'll focus on some of these stitches down here. And I'll show you how to set the machine up to sew those as well. So we'll do stitch 7 right here, stitch 8, and then we'll migrate down to this bottom tier level and check these stitches out. Get some real fancy stitches there. And I'm grateful to Spectrum. They came out right away and worked with Susie to try to get our internet resolved. They pinpointed what the issue is. The issue is it's some sort of a junction box. And it wasn't just affecting us. It was affecting everybody on this mountain. Everybody that has Spectrum was having the same issues with internet dropping and speeds dropping and everything else. So Susie was able to nail that down. Thank you, sweetheart. And they're working on a plan now to get that box replaced so that we don't face that challenge of having to drop a live stream like we did the other day. We had to do 2 live streams in one day. And if you've ever done public speaking, it is exhausting to do that much talking. Even as much as I enjoy talking, it wears you out a little bit. So let me change the stitch selector to 7. We'll do this mountain stitch. For the mountain stitch, I think we might go, well, I think maybe we'll adjust this to 2. Again, when you're sewing some of these specialty stitches, you can decide. You decide what you want to do. You might not do what I do. You might look at that stitch width up here and you say, well, you're going to do the mountain stitch. You should have it all the way on 5, not on 4. So then I'd say, okay, all right, I can do that. So then I move it all the way up to 5. And you look down at the stitch length and you go, Scott, what are you thinking, man? Don't do the mountain stitch at 1.5. You got to do it just a little bit longer. So take it to like 1.75. And then let's see what we get. But the reality is, when you're doing specialty stitches, you can have one stitch where you can give it totally different looks by changing the stitch length down here or changing the stitch width up here on a machine like this Emerald 116. So you decide what kind of music you like and do that. There's not any right or wrong. It's really up to you on the look of the stitch that you're trying to achieve. Okay? So let's see now. I've got everything set up. I got to get my take-up arm all the way up. There we go. Get my take-up arm all the way up, and now we're going to lay down this mountain stitch. Susie and I are in the mountains, so we're going to do a mountain stitch right about now. Yeah, that's a good-looking mountain stitch. See, I can back the camera up a little bit so you can see that from one end to the other. Yeah, good looking stitch. I probably would have made it a little bit shorter just to kind of tighten it up a little bit more. Give it more of a peak look instead of a flat look on top. But yeah, it's a good looking stitch. And again, you write the music and enjoy your song the way you want to hear it. Same thing when you're dealing with stitches. One person will set the stitch width at one thing, another person will set it at another width. Another person will go shorter, longer. You can get all kinds of different stitch variations by doing that. So if your machine only has a limited number of stitches, by adjusting stitch width and stitch length, you can get stitches that look absolutely unique and different, which is kind of cool. All right, so I'm going to draw this to the back again, and we'll move on to our final stitch. I'm going to call it the EKG stitch, kind of a heartbeat stitch on this tier 1 on Kel's machine, her Swedish Beauty, Emerald 116. Emerald 116. And then once we get all these laid down, we'll move into tier 2, and then we'll look at all these stitches together, which I think will be a lot of fun. All right, so I'm going to take my stitch selector. I'm going to go to number 8. And I'm going to look at that stitch length. I'm going to go shorter. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. So I'm going to go down to just a little bit below 1.5, right about there. Hopefully you can see that. And we'll see what kind of EKG stitch pattern we can generate from Kel's Emerald 116. Okay? But already, look at all these beautiful stitches we've done. And again, because of the adjustments we did, we've got an equally beautiful lock stitch. We'll take a closer look at that when we're done with both tiers of stitches. Okay? All right, let me rotate that. Take up arm. Looks like we're good to go. So our final stitch on tier 1 is going to be our EKG stitch. All right, here we go. Oh, yeah, I like that. I like that stitch. That's pretty. So a couple other people, I think, have seen this stitch before, and they've called it kind of a, for those that live on the West Coast, they call it kind of a Richter scale stitch, almost like you're getting an earthquake. Isn't that a pretty stitch? Just got a beautiful presentation to it, doesn't it? All the stitches are lovely. But the EKG stitch, as I call it, the Richter scale stitch for earthquakes, it's just really a pretty stitch. Lovely, 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 lovely stitching. Very, very nice. All right, let me draw that out a little bit. And now we're going to move down to tier 2, and I'll show you how to do that. It's real simple. Clip our threads, and we'll get our material back in place. I'm glad I cut this a little bit wider, so we'll be able to see, apart from the buttonhole, we're going to have all the stitches that Kel's model 116 Emerald can sew. Get that back into place. You can kind of take a perusal of those stitches we've already done. Aren't those nice? Very, very nice. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's because I'm getting ready to go on a little bit of a road trip, but I actually sewed relatively straight today. That doesn't happen very often. I don't usually sew very straight, but I didn't do too bad this time. Not too bad at all. I think there's a black line across there because of that LED light. If I shut it off, though, it's kind of dark. See how dark it is then? Yeah, we're kind of stuck. LED lights are wonderful, unless you're doing a live stream. They're like, stop messing with me, man. Stop messing with me. Okay, so there's the stitches we've done so far. All the way across, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to try to do eight more stitches next to this. Looks like we have plenty of room to work with. So let's go over there and make the changes we need to do. So the first thing we're going to do is go up to our stitch selector, and we're going to go from 8 all the way back down to 1. We want to start over again. So we're set back on 1. Now we need to go down to our stitch length selector, and we need to go to this specialty selection area right here. Hopefully you can see that where my finger is. Right here. There's a minus and a plus, which is going to give you some control over how that stitch pattern presents, whether it's a little bit longer or whether it's a little bit shorter. I usually go right in the middle. You may totally do something different, which is okay. So I'm going to turn it counterclockwise like I'm doing right now. We're going to get up into that specialty area, and I'm going to go right about in the middle. Kind of see I've got that little dot right up there, right about in the middle of this specialty stitch area for tier number 2. And that's all we have to do. It's going to use a cam function to generate the stitch, and then this dial is going to determine how much that stitch pattern is stretched or compressed. So we're going to go right in the middle of the row, which should give us a pretty good idea of how that stitch pattern is going to look when it's set at about 50%. All right, let me back it up a little bit more. There we go. That's pretty good. And now we're going to take a look at this first stitch, which right away when you get into these specialty ornamental stitches, like the stretch straight stitch, you get into the accordion stitch. I'm just making names up now. These are not real names. They're not real names. But all of those really cool stitches that are on that bottom tier are going to require tri-motion. Does anyone remember what tri-motion is? If you remember what tri-motion is, type it in the live chat right now. Type in the live chat what tri-motion is or what it does in concert with needle movement. I'm giving you a big hint here, folks. I'm giving you a big hint. So if you're not sure what tri-motion is, I'm telling you that it works in concert with the needle movement, which means this machine has to be set better than a Swiss watch, because if something is happening while that needle is moving and anything is off, that needle is going to get broken because it's going to be in the wrong spot at the wrong time, right? So anyone that knows what tri-motion is, I'm going to look at the live chat real quick. Tell me what that is. Oh, that's Teresa. Hi, Teresa. I'm going to scroll up to the top real quick and just say hey to folks. Say hey to folks real quick. Yeah, for some reason, Teresa and Tim were not getting notifications of live streams, and they ended up missing 3 or 4 live streams that Susie and I did. And Susie was chatting with Teresa the other evening, and Teresa was like, "What? What? They were shocked. They were totally shocked. And speaking of Teresa and Tim, let me find the song that Tim did and play it for you real quick. Today is Veterans Day, and any of you that have served in any of the armed forces around the world, it doesn't have to be the United States, because we have people that follow our channel in 126 countries. Did you know that there are 126 countries? When I look at the analytics for this channel, we've got over 126 countries that follow the Cow Country videos and our live streams and everything else that we do. And so those other countries, they've got armed forces too, right? So even though it's an American holiday, I'd like to celebrate all of our friends around the world that are serving in uniform. And Tim made a really fun song. I got to play it for you real quick. He made a really fun song and a beautiful song. He's got a beautiful singing voice for me as a veteran, and I wanted to share it with everybody before I forgot. So hang on a second. I got to go to email to do that. Hold on a second. I'll hum a song while we're looking for it. Hold on. La 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 la. All right, this is Tim's song. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. He's got such a talent. And there used to be people back in the day that all they did was write jingles for products and commercials. If Tim decided to do that once he retires in a couple of years, I'll tell you one thing, anything he sings about, I'm going to buy it. I am. Here's Tim.
Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, you stood your ground, you stayed the course. For your service, we have to say, we thank you all on Veterans Day. Purple hearts and bronze stars, marks of honor and battle scars, for all the things that came your way. We thank you all this Veterans Day. Germany and Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, whether in combat or other ways, we thank you all on Veterans Day.
I love it. Absolutely rich with talent. Tim and Teresa are just very special people. We love them. And, every opportunity we have to get together with them, we're going to take advantage of it. And rumor has it, after their last visit to Kentucky with Rutger, they really felt at home here in Kentucky. So it's at least possible that Tim and Teresa, once they retire, they're going to become Kentuckians, and hopefully not too terribly far from Susie and I, so we can see them hopefully every day. Yeah, that would be great. But didn't Tim do a great job? If you think he did a great job, type something in the live chat to acknowledge that. I just think the man has such a beautiful voice and so much talent to be able to pull that together. And the back theme that he used, if you didn't pick up on it, is actually a Green Beret's song that was way back. I used to listen to it in the basement on a 45 album. And Tim used that as his background, but all the lyrics and the singing just highlights his incredible talent. So Tim and Teresa, thank you again for doing something so thoughtful and special to honor me as a veteran, and certainly others that have served in the armed forces as well. God bless you guys. I love you. All right, so let me jump into the Tier 2 sewing. I hope I didn't forget to do anything. I don't think I did. I might have forgotten something. Haha. Okay. Boy, these glasses are filthy. No wonder I can't see anything. Okay, so tier 2, we're pretty much set up already. We've got our stitch width right now at 5. We could certainly go a little bit more narrow. Maybe we'll go 4.5 just to have fun. We've got our stitch selector on 1. So we should be getting this straight stretch stitch right there. That one right there, if you can see that. And then we'll be going down the line and trying to generate all of these other specialty stitches on tier 2. And again, the way we access them is to take our stitch length controller and to turn it to this special little grade spot with a plus and minus. And you might decide to do it differently. You might set yours all the way on minus, all the way down there at the end. You may set yours all the way on the plus. That's going to be totally up to you. If you have an Emerald Model 16, it's going to be your song and you write it the way you want to write it. Just like Tim wrote that beautiful song about Veterans Day. All right, let me take that out a little bit. And we'll jump into this first one. And if no one guessed or no one explained what tri-motion is a function of the machine when it uses the feed dogs in rapid motion going backwards and forward in concert with the needle movement, which requires a lot of precision. So between the needle moving and the feed dogs moving forward and back, we can generate some ornamental stitches that just blow you away. They're just gorgeous. But if you don't have it right, you better have a big stockpile of needles because you're going to break a lot of needles if those feed dogs are not in sync with that needle movement as well. Okay. All right. So our next stitch should be hopefully a stretch straight stitch. All right, here we go. And watch the material. You're going to see the material going back and forth in conjunction with the needle. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop right there. This has to be probably one of my favorite stitches. I call it a pearlized stitch, but it's a stretch straight stitch is what it is. You can see how it presents there. It's absolutely, to me, it's absolutely breathtaking. One of the prettiest stitches that was ever developed. Isn't that gorgeous? So you can call it whatever you want to call it. You can come up with your own name other than a pearlized stitch or a stretch straight stitch. You can call it something different and unique. But in the end, it's going to be a beautiful stitch you can use on a wide variety of projects and just wow people with how beautifully it presents. Doesn't it present well? And you can see now with this machine running at the top of its game after sitting on the shelf for 6 years because Kel had issues with it and she didn't find the right person. It kind of fell off the radar. And then all of a sudden she was looking to step away from her chicken business. She decided to pursue it again and found me online. And that, the rest is history, as they say. But an absolutely breathtaking stitch. I love it. So now we're going to move into the next stitch, and then we'll look at all of these when we get done. We'll look at all of them together, and you'll have the full picture on what this Emerald Model 116 can do that Husqvarna developed. Yeah, why not? And again, just thank you to everybody. I know that everybody's busy, and there's some sacrifice and some discipline that you have to do to devote your time to the family, the Cow Country family, and spend this time in the evening with us on the East Coast right now. It's going on 8 o'clock. If you're on the West Coast, it's much earlier. But if you're around the world, like our friend at the beginning of the live chat, that was probably, from what she wrote, was in Paris, France. I have no idea what time it is in Paris, France right now. It might be the middle of the night. Matter of fact, I probably should find out. But you'll see her comment as she wrote bonjour in the live chat. So what time is it in Paris, France right now? Excuse me. What time is it in Paris, France right now?
The time in Paris, France is 1:36 a.m.
Yeah, I was right. It's like 1:30 in the morning in Paris, France, and our family is so broad around the world, 126 countries that watch this channel. We had somebody joining us at 1:30 in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever it would have been when this individual typed in our live chat, bonjour. So, or maybe I should look at that closer. It's either Paris, France, bonjour, or maybe it was buongiorno, and then it would be Italy. We've got followers in Italy as well. So who knows? But at any rate, it's so nice to have an international family, isn't it? It's so nice to have an international family. It just is. All right, so let's go to stitch number 2 on tier 2. It's going to be this funky one right here. That one right there. And to get that stitch, all we have to do is turn our stitch selector to 2. There we go. We don't have to do a thing with that. I'm going to leave that right where it is. So we're all ready to do stitch number 2 on tier 2. So let me move this over here and we'll jump into that and we'll do our next stitch. All right. And again, watch for that tri motion. Imagine that needle is passing down through the throat plate, coming right in contact or close in contact with that hook system as it whips around very rapidly. And then it has to get back up out of that throat plate before those feed dogs move in the direction of the needle. Otherwise, we're going to be going through a lot of needles. Yeah, we are. All right, here's our next stitch. Here we go. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Look at that one. Oh my goodness. I thought the straight stitch was my favorite, but I might have a new favorite. Isn't that spectacular? I got to get away from that LED light because it kind of glares a little bit on that stitch. What do you think of that one? I think that's just spectacular, don't you? Does anyone have an opinion as to what you might call this stitch? It kind of looks like a zigzag, but it's not. Maybe an overlay zigzag, because the stitching goes over and over the same point multiple times and creates that depth and that fullness of the stitch. Yeah, we can call it anything you want. I don't care. But it's just a gorgeous stitch, isn't it? Absolutely lovely. Let's go to the next stitch now. We're going to keep on rolling here. We keep on rolling. All right. Yeah, that's a beautiful stitch. I love that one. That's such a looker, isn't it? That's such a looker. Wow. Wow. Amazing. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's get our material back in place. And we'll go on to stitch number 3, which is even more complex from a standpoint of needle movement and tri motion. This one creates, I think I call it the catacomb stitch. It's called the catacomb stitch, but you decide what you want to call it once you see it. It's just spectacular. All right, so I'm going to go to stitch number 3. Give this a click here. We're going to leave that alone. Our stitch length controller is set on the specialty tier 2 stitches right now, that gray area right in the middle. And now we're going to do this next stitch, which is like ridiculously complex. All right, here we go. Look at that material moving, that tri-motion function in conjunction with the needle movement. Nice. Very, very nice. Wow. And that's what I call a catacomb stitch, but you might decide to call it something totally different. Something totally different. Take my glasses off so I can see more clearly. Back the camera up a little bit more. What do you think? And we'll look at these real close up when we're done with all the stitches. Once we do tier 1 and tier 2, we'll set up the camera and we'll look at these real close, so you'll be able to see the detail of the stitches even more. But I think that one is breathtaking, don't you? Absolutely breathtaking. Cal, I don't know what kind of sewing Cal's going to do. Again, this is more of a light duty machine, so I don't want her to push it too hard. But again, there's a lot of projects you can do that this machine will absolutely love doing. And imagine using some of these for ornamental purposes, for decorative purposes, on some of the project clothing and other things that you might be doing. It's absolutely like a wow factor. Absolutely a wow factor. Very, very nice. Very nice. And this machine with Swedish roots is making everything.
That was easy.
Making it look really easy, isn't it? But again, this is a machine that sat on the shelf at Cal and Chris's house for about 6 years, waiting to be resurrected, waiting to be brought back to a point where she could sew again. And boy, did we nail it at the workshop, didn't we? We, like me, it's only me, but Susie brings me tea and helps in so many other ways. I couldn't do it without her, that's for sure. Couldn't do it without her help. All right, so let's go to the next one. The next one is going to be stitch number 4, which is going to be this one right here. It's kind of an arrow stitch almost, isn't it? Kind of an arrow stitch with a lot of overlay. So we're going to take our stitch selector. We're going to click it over to 4. And that's all we have to do. That's all we have to do, unless we decide to change the stitch width. But I'm probably going to leave the stitch width right about where it's at. So let's do this next stitch on tier 2. I'm calling it an arrow stitch. You might call it something completely different, and that's okay. You can call it whatever you want to call it. All right, let me grab a sip of tea, and we'll jump into this next stitch, okay? All right, here goes our arrow stitch, as I call it. And again, always make sure before you launch that your take-up arm is at the highest point, just like you see it there, okay? Always launch with your take-up arm at the highest point. All right, here goes the arrow stitch. Maybe we could call it the Robin Hood stitch. That would be more fun, wouldn't it? Kind of looks like an arrow, Robin Hood and his merry men. All right, here we go. The arrow stitch or the Robin Hood stitch. Yeah, here we go. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Draw it to the back. Look at that one. I think I have another favorite stitch now. Yeah, the arrow stitch. Very, very lovely. All the stitches are lovely. They're all different, but they're all lovely, aren't they? This Emerald 119 now with Workshop Magic has really, really taken off and is laying down some absolutely drop-dead gorgeous stitches. Absolutely page 34. So we'll move on to the next stitch. After the arrow stitch, we've got, what do we have? We have about 4 more stitches, I guess. And then we'll have all the stitches minus the buttonhole that Kel's machine can do. That's quite a few stitches. We get more stitches from this Emerald 116 than we can on a lot of the other vintage Husqvarna machines. Even if you have all the cams, you're not going to be able to generate stitches quite like this. So really is a sweetheart and a jewel of a machine. Really a sweetheart and a jewel of a machine. All right, let's go on to this next one now. We're going to go on to stitch number 5. This one right here. I don't know what you'd call it. It's kind of a type of mountain stitch almost, isn't it? Or looks like a TP stitch, maybe a TP stitch, like on a reservation, a bunch of TPs lined up together. But all we have to do to get it is turn our stitch selector to 5. That's it. And we're going to leave this alone. We'll leave our stitch width alone, and we'll sew this next stitch on tier number 2 of the stitches. All right. All right, here we go. Get my material reasonably straight. I've done a pretty good job up to this point. I can't go off target now. I got to stay straight. Try to stay straight. Here we go. There we go. Oh yeah, it almost kind of looks like a baby version. It almost looks like a baby version of the last stitch that we did, doesn't it? Kind of looks like a baby version of it. You take a look at it, kind of scales it down a little bit. Can you see that okay? Hopefully. Yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice. Beautiful stitching. And I didn't tell you about our setup. I should have done that right at the beginning. But our setup is going to be with Coats & Clark dual duty XP thread. I use that a lot, as most of you know. I love Coats & Clark's dual duty XP thread. And if you didn't know what dual duty means, don't feel silly. Don't feel ignorant. Dual duty means that their thread, their XP thread, can be used with machine sewing or hand sewing. Usually, if you're going to do hand sewing, you use a different type of thread. Coats & Clark came up with their dual duty thread so that if you got a spool of thread that's dual duty XP, whether you're doing hand sewing or machine sewing, you only need one spool of thread. You don't need more than one. And you'll get the job done beautifully with their thread. And then I've got Schmetz 9014 universal needle, which means we can sew a wide field of materials, including these 2 layers of cotton that come from a fat quarter. And I've got just a little bit of stiffener in between because of the complexity of some of the stitches we're sewing. It gives a little bit more stability to the material so that we can execute and get a cleaner, more beautiful stitch. And that's really the whole purpose of stiffeners, isn't it? That's the whole purpose of stiffeners, is to get that stiffness factor, and we can enjoy a better outcome and a better quality stitch. So I'm going to give that a clip, move the thread to the back, give this a clip. We'll get our material back underneath there. We'll move on to stitch number 6 on tier 2 of this Emerald Model 116. And, if you look online, these machines, even though they're a number of years old, they're still very popular. You can find an Emerald Model 116. The average price is somewhere between $600 to $800. So it's not a cheap machine. It's not an inexpensive machine, I should say. You make an investment when you buy it. And so you have to make an investment to preserve it and to keep it running well. And that's really what a detailed service and the repairs that I did to this machine bring it back to a better than brand new state. So hopefully Kel will be able to enjoy this for many, many years to come with no issues. Otherwise, she knows how to find me. She knows how to find me. All right. So let's go on to our next stitch. I'm not going to belabor the point. You know where the stitch selector is. So I'm just going to move it to stitch number 6 now, which is going to give us, I think a couple people called it a ladder stitch. A ladder stitch when we did it on the Necky machine. There's a similar stitch on the Necky machine. So we'll do a ladder stitch now on Kel's Model 116 Emerald Husqvarna Viking, blah, blah, blah. All right, here we go. Here goes a ladder stitch. I could go so much faster, but because of the table that I'm sitting on, and this table is, while I'm wiggling it, this table wobbles because of the machine power kicking in. If I go faster, I'm going to have to anchor this machine down because it's going to take off and fly is what it's going to do. It's going to take off and fly. All right, let me draw that to the back, and we'll go ahead and clip these threads and give you a chance to look at this ladder stitch. You may call it something totally different. You might even call it by the proper name according to the manufacturer, but I choose not to do that. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to make up your own stitch names. I think so anyway. So this is our ladder stitch. Let me back the camera up a little bit. We'll give you a look at that. That's lovely, isn't it? Very nice. For some reason the word in my head comes up rick-rack, but I don't think this is a rick-rack stitch. Just call it a ladder stitch. You can call it something else if you like. Yeah, very, very nice. All right, we only have 2 more stitches left on tier 2, and then we've done all the stitches that Kel's machine can sew. All the stitches that her machine can sew. All right, there we go. And one quick little tip for you. You'll notice sometimes I'm readjusting and readjusting the material. When you have a stitch like these that are on tier 2, the majority of them are going to have that tri-motion. And oftentimes the first movement of the tri-motion is to the rear. So you don't want to set the material too close to the edge of the presser foot, or you're going to be sewing off the material outside of the boundaries of the material. So I always set the material in just a little bit further, a little bit deeper than I normally would, so that if it takes that step backwards, we're still going to be hitting the material. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So I'm going to go to stitch number 7 again, or I should say for the first time, stitch number 7. This one right here, it's going to be this stitch right here, which is super duper cool. The second one from the end. And then the last stitch we'll do after that is going to be, you could call that a tree stitch or a bird foot stitch. What would you call these stitches? You can call them something totally different, and you're not going to be wrong. You're going to be right, because it's up to you to name the stitch. It's totally up to you. Okay? So we just 2 stitches left on tier 2, and then we reach the finish line in executing every stitch that this Husqvarna Viking Emerald Model 116 can do. I sure would love how to say 116 in Swedish. Wouldn't that be fun? Let me see if I can look it up real quick just for fun. The classroom is all about learning, and then you'll know how to say 116 as well in Swedish, right? We already know it's like in the middle of the night right now for those folks that are watching us in France and watching us in other parts of the world. So now we can know hopefully how to say 116 in Swedish. At least I hope so. How do I say 116 in Swedish?
To say 100, you say 100, which means 116. It combines ETT, which is 1, 100, which is 100, and Stutton, which is 16.
Holy mackerel, I wish she would say that again. Let me go backwards and I'll put it by the speaker so you can hear her pronounce it. Hold on a second. Oh, she's not going to say it again. Doggone it. Well, at any rate, if you want to see how to write 116, at least in our language, there it is right there. Uthandres Juten, or something like that. Uthandres Juten. If somebody's watching from Sweden right now, because we have a number of people that join us from Sweden on the recent live streams. As a matter of fact, one lady paid a great compliment to me. I was really humbled by it. She said, your videos help me to, well, Susie can tell you. I don't remember exactly what she said, but she wrote in the live chat that the videos on the Cow Country channel had given her the opportunity to bring a machine back to life. How cool is that? That's super cool. I mean, we all learn from each other, right? It's not that Scott has all the right answers. I oftentimes learn as much from all of you as you learn from me. So it really is, it's a group effort, and it's the family coming together to learn together. That's the way I look at it anyway. Okay, so what stitch are we on now? We just did the ladder stitch, I guess. Now we're going to do this real complex stitch. This one right here. Once the camera focuses on it, I'll get my finger out of the way. There it is. So all we have to do to get that stitch is turn our stitch selector from 6 up to 7. And now we'll be able to do this other stitch, which maybe you have a name for it. I don't have a name for this stitch other than cool, a super cool stitch. All right, here we go. Our second to the last stitch. Here we go. Let me take you down to the needle just for fun. You ready? If you get motion sickness, hang on to a friend or grab the couch. Grab the couch, okay? I understand too that if you eat ginger or drink something with ginger in it, it helps with motion sickness. So grab some ginger, quick, grab it, quick. And again, I could go a lot faster. I'm barely pushing the foot controller down, but this table wobbles a lot. It's a wobbly table. So I'm trying to keep the wobble down. Pull that back. And we'll take a look at this stitch, which I think is just, are you kidding me? It's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Drop dead gorgeous stitch. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that a great? I mean, that's just like, wow. Absolutely breathtaking. All these stitches are like, wow, aren't they? Jen has really a cool machine here that's ready to get the job done now. See that? Wow. And it continues to do it.
That was easy.
Makes it look easy, doesn't it? It makes it look so doggone easy. Unbelievable. Well, we only have one more stitch to do. One more stitch on tier 2. And we've done every stitch on this Husqvarna Viking Emerald 116. Every stitch on the machine. Got a lot of stitches. Yeah, it does. We get this in place. And I'm going to turn our stitch selector without boring you with showing you again. I'll turn it from 7 up to 8. That's the upper knob. You see me turning it right here. We're going to leave the stitch length alone because we're in that gray zone between the plus and minus. We're going to leave our stitch width alone, leave it right there. And we'll execute this final stitch on Kel's machine. And then we can look at all of them up close and personal, the lock stitch, the top stitch, yeah, everything. All right, you ready? Final one, folks. Here we go. It kind of was having trouble keeping up with that needle, wasn't it? You could see the camera kind of fading in and fading out and going, hey, I'm trying. Yeah, there we go. That's our final stitch. I kind of a bird step. I don't know what you'd call it. Looks like it could be a tree limb. Looks like it might be a bird foot stitch or something like that. But now we get to look at all the stitches that Jen's machine just made look so easy, so doggone easy. See if we can back the camera up a little bit, see if I can find the right place. I'll go over closer to the laptop so I can see the laptop. That's the only challenge. So we started way over here, right? Where am I? We started way over here and did a straight stitch. Then we did the zigzag. We did the 3-point zigzag. We did a blind hem. We did all of these funky ones all the way across. And our top stitching is looking absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Go from top to bottom. And we still have more thread left. We still have more thread left. Plenty of thread. Aren't those beautiful? So if you're a vintage diehard person and you've always been a little bit of a snob, because I've been a snob sometimes about certain contemporary or, well, let's just say young vintage machines, to be kind. You might want to look at picking up an Emerald 116, because imagine some of these stitches on some of your projects, what that might do for you. Absolutely gorgeous. We're going to turn it over and look at the lock stitching, which I've said it before. I'll turn it all the way like this so we can look at it exactly the same way. The lock stitching should be almost a mirror image of your top stitch. It's a lot harder for the machine to execute it because it has to pass down through the throat plate and pull that thread back up. But you can see now with the bobbin adjustments and the hook adjustments that I did, this lock stitch is almost a mirror image of what you just saw on the other side of the material. Almost a mirror image. And that's the best of the best. If you can do a mirror image of the lock stitch to the top stitch, you absolutely nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Yeah. So beautiful lock stitching, top stitching. Lock stitching. Oh, this is fun. It's like fine motor skills 101. Fine motor skills 101. Oh, look at me, Mom. Look at me. But at any rate, all kidding aside, what a great machine. And it's so fun to be able to bring a machine back to greatness after it sat on a shelf for almost 6 years. And now Kel can retire from, I'll just set this down for a second. She can retire from the work she was doing with this company, Jerkbeak Farms, which I think that's just super cool. If I ever see a chicken riding a motorcycle, yeah, you'll have to pick me up off the ground. But that is just a cool graphic. Hopefully they have it trademarked or protected in some way so someone else doesn't try to steal it, because that's very, very unique. Whoever did the artistic work on that, kudos. And whoever did the artistic work on this, kudos. And that would be Workshop Magic, folks. Workshop Magic, taking a machine off the shelf after 6 years and laying down stitching like that during a live stream. You can't fake it in a live stream. You either do it or you don't. That's why it's kind of funny. I'll just set that there for a second so you can look at it. It's kind of funny to encounter something unexpected like the bolt that I replaced on the faceplate that was missing. And I was so careful about the thread type and the size of the bolt. And I even added extra washers to push it out further. But I did not test it before the live stream to see that there was enough room for that needle bar to move freely. And oops. But I think I figured it out in about 10 seconds and we got it back on track. And we've had a great live stream. And I didn't pull a lot of sew-offs together for us to do. I've got some denim. I've got some canvas, U.S. Army grade canvas. And I've got a light piece of leather. Again, this is a light duty machine. I wouldn't go crazy on the leather with it. But I've got some genuine cowhide. And then I even got my little circle here in case I wanted to sew in a circle at the end to the 1812 Overture or something fun like that. You never know. So if anyone has a special favorite stitch that you saw during this live stream, I'm going to go ahead and check the live chat, or Susie can text it to me, and you can tell me what material, whether the canvas, the denim, or the leather you want me to sew on, and what stitch you want sewed on it. This is your time to shine. This is your time to step out of the shadows and let me know what you want. Okay? Let me know what you want. So what stitch do you want to see on canvas? What stitch do you want to see on denim? What stitch do you want to see? Oh, I actually have a little piece of Italian leather. What stitch do you want to see on Italian leather? And then finally, cowhide, genuine cowhide. Okay, I'll throw this big one to the side for right now. So I'm going to go look at the live chat, see if anyone's typing anything in. Everybody might be asleep for all I know. I have no idea. Let's see what we got. Oh, it's snowy in Vermont. That's fun. Let me put my reading glasses on, and I'll say hi to everybody real quick while y'all are deciding what you want to see. And I'll show you the stitches again so you can give me the number. Okay? I'll show you the stitches again. Let me go all the way to the top. It looks like Susie Geller, my lovely wife, was the first one in the classroom. So kudos to her. Well done. And then we had our friend. Bonjour, je das mara. Yeah, we had our friend, the second in the live chat. The second in the live chat was somebody from France. Isn't that cool? I don't know if they ever made it back in or not, or maybe they lost internet connection. But right after Susie jumped into the classroom, first in the classroom, came our friend from France. And then we had, who came in next? Oh, yeah, she came back. Welcome to our family. Very nice. Then we had Teresa, and we had Roxy 0405, and we've had, see who else we have in the live chat. I'm scrolling. I don't want to miss anybody. If I miss anybody, I'll get in trouble. Then we have Rachel Rivera, which is our friends from New York, Candido and Rachel. And again, they're going to be getting a Swedish beauty once I get back from my trip, hopefully real soon. They've been patiently waiting. So thank you for being so patient. New Yorkers are not known for being patient, but Rachel and Candido are just they're just such a beautiful couple. We're so fortunate to have them in the family. Who else do we have? Oh, then we have Avos Guard 78. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Geller. Oh, we're so formal. Look at you. And I think Avos Guard 78, that's Michelle, isn't it, from Minnesota? Do I have that right? I have no idea if I have that right. Maybe I do. Yeah, and she's excited. She's like, hey, you guys are back. What's going on? What's up? Yay. All right, who else do we have? Seeing if there's anybody else in the live chat. I'm looking at the live chat just to say hi to folks. We have somebody else from snowy Vermont. Vermont. Oh, it's Aaron Allen. Yeah. From snowy Vermont. I've had the privilege to do a number of machines for Aaron out in Vermont. I can tell you something. I've never been to Vermont, and maybe Susie and I need to plan a trip to the East Coast and visit all of our friends that are part of the Cow Country family, from all the way up to Vermont, to New York, to South Carolina, North Carolina, the whole shebang, and just have a chance to meet everybody. That's such a beautiful area, the Northeast, isn't it? Such a beautiful area. And apparently they're getting snow just like we did. Yeah, I think I caught everybody. I had a chance to say, yo, what's up? What's up, everybody? Well, we got such a beautiful family. We're so fortunate. We're so blessed. We're so blessed to have each and every one of you. And that includes all of you that watch this later as a video. You'll be amazed. People are engaged in other things. They're tied up, some of them working second shift, whatever it is. Or they got family obligations or other things that they've got to do. And they can't make it to the live stream, but they jump in afterwards. And if you don't believe me, pop back to this live stream once it's posted on the channel, and you'll probably see 3 digits as far as the number of people that have watched it and liked it and loved it and everything else. Our family, like I said, 126 countries, and tens of thousands of people come to the channel. Hundreds of thousands come every month to the channel. We got a big family, folks. We better look at expanding and making a lot of turkey for Thanksgiving because we got a big family. Yeah, we do. Our family's huge. All right. Let me see what else. Oh, we'll take a look at these. I think we already looked at them. We'll look at them one more time and then we'll see if I can show you. I'll show you the stitches and then you can tell me what you want to see sewn on what kind of material. I'll show you one more time. So we got Italian leather, genuine cowhide, U.S. Army grade canvas, and denim. So we have 4 materials to choose from. And we've got, what is it? 2, 4, 6. We've got about 16 stitches that we can choose to go on the various materials. So I'm going to show you all the stitches. I'll show you all the stitches as best as I can. Let me get closer. We'll go like this. I can't see if you can see that or not. I hope you can see that. Oh, there we go. That's better. Hey. So we have tier 1 and tier 2, stitches 1 through 8. Stitches 1 through 8. So if you just put the type of material you want to see sewn, and whether it's tier 1 or tier 2, and what the number of the stitch is. So 3 things: the material, tier 1 or tier 2, and this would be tier 1 up here, tier 2 down here, and then the stitch number. Okay? I'm doing my best. I got kind of a weird shadow going. I don't know where that shadow is coming from. There we go. That's a little bit better. And don't ask me to do a buttonhole or I'll laugh at you. Ha ha! I don't do buttonholes. All right, so you had a chance to see the stitch numbers. And then you can just tell me what material and what stitch you're looking and whether it's on tier 1 or tier 2, okay? And I'll do my best to honor your wishes. Canvas, stitch number 4, tier 1, please. And I believe that's Miss Teresa. And then before that, Susie said, tier 2, number 8 on denim. So I'll do them in the order they came in. If there's other people that want to see the stitches again, let me know. Otherwise, we'll do those 2 stitches. And maybe we'll just wrap this live stream up early because it's getting late. And I've got a road trip starting tomorrow. It's after 8 o'clock. It's after 7 o'clock Central Time. And you people in Mountain Time and West Coast Time will probably run this about 6 hours because you guys are always earlier. It's never late out on the West Coast, is it? You guys are always earlier than us, which I guess as it should be, right? Okay, and Susie wrote 2 of them. Bird foot on denim, which is, let's see, tier 2, number 8 on denim. Let me see if I can find this. Tier 2, number 8 on denim. Okay. So I'm going to do Susie's first. And I've got 2 layers of denim, nothing crazy heavy duty. I got 2 layers of denim. We'll do the bird foot one. And then if there's any other folks that want to see a stitch, just let me know. Okay. So this is Susie Geller's sew off. The bird foot on 2 layers of denim. Here we go. So you can see something here. I'll just show you real quick. See how our material slipped a little bit? That's telling me that we may, for 2 layers of denim, maybe we should have bumped up our presser foot pressure. We're only set on 2 right now. And also we could have used some of those clips that Paula Noel gave us from West Palm Beach, Florida. to hold that material together because see, it slipped on a position. So, but other than that, we'll look at the stitch and see what we think of Susie's bird foot stitch on 2 layers of denim. Oh yeah, I like that. That's gorgeous. Good pick, Susie. Good pick, hun. Wow. Wowsy, wowsy. Let me draw that back. We'll take a closer look at it. Yeah, very nice. If I clip the threads, I can get closer to the camera. Let me do that. Let me get closer to the camera. I'll actually stand up so I can get closer to the camera this way. So this is Susie's bird foot 1 through 2 layers of denim. And the only thing is we had the material slip a little bit. We had that material slip a little bit. And there are denim needles, right? If y'all didn't know that, there's denim needles. We could use a denim needle and get even a better result, but it's quite lovely. Look at it like this as well. Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice. And it's not just, hear me right, okay, y'all? Hear me right that we could go heavier than 2 layers of denim. We probably could go, I would feel comfortable doing up to 6 layers of denim on Kel's machine. But again, it's not something you want to do every day because this is more of a light duty, decorative light project type machine. More of a dude. Let's turn around, look at that lock stitch. Yeah, good looking lock stitch too. And again, when you're sewing through different materials, especially when you're sewing with a universal needle, you might have to make tension adjustments. You may have to make tension adjustments to accommodate that material. On this one, what I would have done if we were sewing 2 layers of denim all day long, what I would do is I would bump up that upper tension just a little bit because it looks like our loop at the base of the stitch pattern could be a little bit tighter. You see that where it's a little bit droopy? It's not bad. Not bad at all, but it's a little bit droopy. And if you didn't know it, the lock stitch that we're looking at right now, is controlled by the upper tension. You wouldn't believe how many people have contacted me and said, I've got bird nesting on the bottom of my material. I've got a loose stitch on the bottom of my material like this. And I've tightened up the bobbin case with the adjuster screw you talked about in one of your live streams all the way. And it only got worse. Well, of course it's going to get worse because if you tighten up the bobbin case adjusting screw, you're going to give more authority to that top stitch and you're going to have a hyper defined top stitch and you're going to steal all of the strength away from that upper tension and pulling up to define this lock stitch. So the upper tension is pulling up to define this. The bobbin case down below is pulling down to define the top stitch. So they're in a constant tug of war. The bobbin case is pulling down. The top stitch, the upper tension is pulling up to define the lock stitch. And they're in a constant pulling match like this, back and forth. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So if you ever have a stitch on the bottom that looks like it's underdefined, you want to bump up your upper tension. Bump it up just a little bit in small increments until you get to the result that you desire. If you turn it over and you look at the top stitch and you say, my top stitch is underdefined. My top stitch is underdefined. Then in that case, you want to bump down the upper tension. You want to reduce the upper tension so the bobbin case down below can pull down harder. You're basically, when you reduce the upper tension, you're giving more authority to the bobbin case. When you increase the bobbin case down below, you're giving more authority to that top stitch so that it can overcome the upper tension. Am I making sense? I hope I am. So just think of it. I'm pointing at something. this upper tension pulls up. The bobbin case down here pulls down. They're like this constantly. Whoa, hey, don't be a bully. Let me pull. No, you let me pull. So they're like this all the time. They're like children. They need a timeout. They need a timeout is what they need. But instead, we just have to understand how it works, and then we can overcome those obstacles. Whether the stitching is looser on the bottom or looser on the top, we can use this most of the time up here. Most of the time, we can use this to control that. If we want more definition on the bottom, we bump this up. If we want more definition on top of the material, we bump this down. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. But that'll give you the success that you've been struggling with. I've talked to seamstresses. I'm not making this up. I've talked to seamstresses that have been sewing for 40 years, and they did not understand. They did not understand how tension works. I've talked to people that have sewn professionally for 30 plus years. They did not understand the importance of presser foot pressure right here. They didn't understand why they would set their stitch length at the longest stitch length and they would have stubby stitches. And once we talked it through, and while I was on the phone with them, they made that adjustment. You could hear them giggling in the background. And these are people that have been sewing for decades. So let me give all of you a challenge. If you go into different Facebook groups, you're going to find people that don't understand. Educate them. Share your knowledge with them. Help them understand how tension works. Help them understand the importance of presser foot pressure. And for those that are working with universal presser foot pressures like the necking machine, get them to realize sometimes you just got to slow down. You got to slow down and give that universal presser foot pressure a chance to regulate as best as it can. So put those tips, don't keep them in the classroom. You got to take them out of the classroom and share them in your circles to make other people smarter on how to enjoy their machines so that their machine, like Kel's machine, doesn't go up on a shelf for 6 years and not get used because it's not working right. Okay? So share the knowledge, share the good news of what their machines can do if they do the right thing. Can I hear an amen? Ha ha! No, really, in all seriousness, share your knowledge. You all are so smart. You're the smartest people on the internet when it comes to what we cover in these classroom settings during live streams and that. But the knowledge stays in the classroom unless you carry it out to your circles of influence and give it to others. Give it freely, right? Give it freely. All right, blah, 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 blah. All right, let me see our other stitch. Someone had typed something in. Someone, what else? Let's see here. Let's see. We had another one that was picked. Canvas. Oh, Teresa. Teresa picked canvas, stitch 4, tier 1. Stitch 4, tier 1. Canvas. Canvas, stitch 4, tier 1, I think is what she said. So let me put our canvas in. And now we need to go back to tier 1. Do y'all remember how we go to tier 1? We're on tier 2 right now. We're on tier 2 because we're in this region of the machine right here. In that little gray area with the plus minus. This is tier 2. We want to go to tier 1. All we have to do is move this back somewhere between 1 and 4. So I'm going to do that right now. I better go the other way. Okay. So Teresa wanted stitch 4, I think it was, right? Let me double check. I think it's stitch 4, tier 1. Been a long day, folks. I apologize. Yep. Stitch 4, tier 1 on canvas. Okay. Stitch 4. Okay. So now we're going to go to stitch 4. It'd be this one right up here. It's kind of the, kind of like it's not really an EKG stitch, but that's the one right there. So I'm on stitch 8 right now. I need to go from stitch 8 down to stitch 4. And whenever you're changing a stitch selector, whether it's on an Emerald 116 like this or any other sewing machine, make sure that your needle is clear of the material, because watch what happens when I change this dial. So if your needle is down in the material right now, when you're changing the dial, you're going to bend your needle. And then your needle is going to do all kinds of awful things like hit your throat plate and stitch ugly stitches. So make sure your needle is always clear, always clear of the material when you're stitching. When you're adjusting the stitch selector is what I meant to say. Sorry. And then what I'm going to do for this stitch for Teresa is I'm going to reduce our stitch length now from about 3.5 all the way down to about 1.5. So we can tighten that stitch up a little bit more. Okay. And why don't we, for fun, since we have everything set up now, we're back on tier 1. We've got our stitch selector set on 4 for stitch number 4 that Teresa wants. We've adjusted our stitch length down to about, just a little bit below 1.5. We've got 1 layer of canvas right now. Why don't we go to 2 layers? Let's give this machine a chance to flex its muscles just a little bit. Again, if you weren't with us in the beginning, this Husqvarna Viking Emerald Model 116 has a 0.6 amp motor. A 0.6 amp motor is only 0.4 of an amp short of an amp. It's going to be the same size motor as a Singer 1591 with the potted motor. It's going to be the same size motor as a Singer 201-2, the Rolls Royce of Singer sewing machines, and the same size motor as a lot of other machines out there. It's not a small motor at all. So we'll at least sew 2 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Okay. All right. Here we go with Teresa's stitch number 4, tier 1. And we'll see how this machine does on this sew off. And I'll see if there's any others that anyone else has picked. All right. All right. Here we go. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Rotate my needle all the way up. Yeah, very nice. Very, very lovely. Isn't that a pretty stitch? Let's take a look at it. I'll give it a clip and we'll take a look at it a little bit closer up. And again, this is not the maximum. This is not the maximum of what this Emerald 116 can do. This Emerald 116 could probably, I would feel comfortable sewing up to probably 6 layers of canvas with it. But I wouldn't sew 6 layers of canvas every single day because there are some plastic Teflon gears in this machine, and that would put a little bit too much stress on them, okay? But you can certainly do some one-offs and just have fun with certain projects. Now look at the precision of that stitch that Teresa picked. This again is stitch number 4 on tier 1. And we've got a setting, I believe, of about a little bit above 1.5 on the stitch length. And I'd have to look probably about 4.5 on stitch width. Really a lovely, lovely stitch. Now this is our top stitch. So this top stitch is being defined by what? This is a quick little, it's kind of a spot quiz. This is a spot quiz. Our top stitch is being defined by what? Is it the upper tension or is it the bobbin case? Is our top stitch being defined by the upper tension or the bobbin case? Type it in the live chat. Is it being defined by the upper tension or the bobbin case? Our top stitch is defined by one or the other. And really, in fairness to the question, it's really defined by both because they have to work cooperatively, don't they, with their tug of war. Which one? And I don't think I have my thing scrolled all the way down. Let me see if I can, hold on a second. Let me see if I can scroll it all the way down. Yeah, bobbin case. Susie's right, Teresa's right. So our bobbin case is pulling down to give us this beautiful stitch that Teresa picked. Now, when we turn it over, we're going to see our lock stitch. Our lock stitch is being defined by the upper tension, which we have set right at about 7 right now. Before I made those adjustments to the hook and to the bobbin case, I had to crank it all the way up to 9, and we still didn't have the proper lock stitch. Let's turn over and see what we got. Yeah, it's nice, but it still could be a little bit tighter. It could be just a little bit tighter through these 2 layers of canvas. Remember that needle has to sweep down through the canvas down into the raceway and then pull that thread back up. So if we were sewing 2 layers of canvas all day long, doing Teresa's stitch, we would want to increase our upper tension just slightly. Maybe bump it up to 7.5, because canvas is a very dense material. It's tough to get through, especially when we're sewing with a universal needle that's already done a lot of sewing. It's starting to lose its sharpness. And the universal needles don't have a real super sharp point. It's like slightly rounded. So you're really kind of punching through the canvas. So we need a little bit more upper tension to tighten this up just a little bit more. We got a little bit too much here, and we don't have quite enough here. But it's such an easy fix to do that once you know what to do, right? Once you know what to do. So I'm going to set this to the side and see if there's any other stitches that folks want to see. We've got plenty of room on the denim. If someone wants to see a different stitch laid down, we've got Italian leather. We've got genuine cowhide. And I'm happy to do a little bit more stitching if anybody wants to see a different stitch on one of these 4 materials. Again, we've got U.S. Army grade canvas. We've got Italian leather. We've got denim. And what else do we have? Cowhide, genuine cowhide. So we have these 4 materials. I'll just kind of lay them right here. I got to clip that other thread. There's the cowhide, the canvas, and the Italian leather. So let me show you the stitches again. If you want to see one of the stitches, whether it's on tier 1, which is the top row, or tier 2, the bottom row, and you want to see a stitch laid down on one of these specific materials, we've only done a couple of them, one for Teresa on U.S. Army grade canvas, one for Susie on denim. We still got cowhide. We've got Italian leather. I'll show you the stitches again and just type it in the live chat, and we're happy to do it. We want you to feel like you're being involved, that you have a voice. So I'll show you tier 1 first of all. Maybe I can show you both. That would be cool. Yeah, so starting from left to right, we've got stitch 1 on tier 2, stitch 1 on tier 1. This is tier 2, tier 1. See if I can get a shot here. Certain colors this camera just doesn't like. So you can see right there, there's stitch 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, if you want to tell me the stitch number, the material you want it on, whether it's on tier 1 or tier 2, we would be happy to do that. We always want everyone to feel like they have a voice in the classroom and they can get involved as much as they're comfortable getting involved. We've had people that have been part of our family for years, and they've always sat in the shadows. And then finally they felt comfortable saying that we never make fun of anybody. We never criticize somebody for getting the wrong answer or not knowing the answer to a question. We're all learning together. We're all students. So that's a good thing. Yeah, it does. It looks nice and consistent. I agree with you, Teresa. I always just come from the standpoint we can always make it better. We can always make it better. So I agree with you. These are all great looking stitches, but I'm always hypercritical of a stitch because it annoys the dickens out of me if I'm somewhere and someone posts on Facebook or they say on a YouTube channel or somewhere else, oh, here's the perfect stitch. That's a bunch of malarkey. I can look at that stitch and I can pick it apart and say, no, you got to adjust this. Your spacing's a little bit off here. The point is you can always make it better. And it ties into our principle of Kanai, C-A-N-I. There's someone that knows what Kanai is. Type that in the live chat, please. It can be one of the leaders. It can be one of the other folks that are in the classroom. Type what Kanai means, because that's what we're committed to in the classroom. We've got amazing machines like this one that Kel had on the shelf for 6 years, and now it's sewing up a storm. It's doing a beautiful job, but we can always make any stitch better. And that's what gets us out of bed in the morning, right? Gets us out of bed in the morning, gets us excited about doing something that even looks better. Yeah, constant and never-ending improvement. Constant and never-ending improvement. We're not as good today as we will be tomorrow. We're not as good tomorrow as we will be next week. We're always making it better. We're always making it better. And that just raises the bar to where other people on other channels, they won't even watch us because they're like, that's a perfect stitch. And he's tearing it apart. He's saying this is bad, or this is that, or this is this. But that's just our standard. We want it to be just so spot on, right? As our friends over in England say, we want it to be spot on. Okay, it looks like Susie wants to see the bird foot stitch on Italian leather. Let's do that. If anybody else wants to see a stitch, please, 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 don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. We're glad to do it. So I'm going to grab our Italian leather. I'll set it right over here. And I think we're already set on the bird foot stitch. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're set on that other stitch. The bird foot stitch is going to be on tier 2, stitch number 8. I'm pretty sure Susie means this one. I think it's this one right here, isn't it? That one right there. Is that the one you want, Susie? This is the bird foot one, right? Tier 2, number 8. Okay. So to go to tier 2, we've got to make a couple of changes. I want to show you this again so you're really comfortable with this, okay? I want you to be absolutely comfortable with this. So to go to, right now we're on tier 1, and whether we're on tier 1 or tier 2, tier 1 is the top layer of stitches here. Tier 2 is right here. If we want to go to tier 2 to do Susie's bird foot stitch, the only thing we have to change is the stitch length controller. We've got to go from somewhere between 1 to 4 to this gray area right here. So let's see if I hopefully go the right direction this time. It looks like I did. So now just by making that subtle little change, we've gone from tier 1 down here to tier 2 up here. And now we can sew any of these stitches on the bottom. But we're going to sew stitch number 8 for Susie. So I've got to take our stitch selector from 4 to 5 to 6 to 7, all the way to 8. And then I have to look at my stitch width up here and say, is that okay? Right now I'm at 4.5. I'm going to leave it right there. So now we're going to grab that Italian leather and we'll do our first sew off on that Italian leather. We'll get that into position. You can see I didn't take much time to cut this, which I probably should do. And I'll use our Guggenheim scissors, our shears, to do that. Make it look a little bit more presentable, a little bit more pretty. Because right now it looks kind of weird, doesn't it? So I'm going to do my best to kind of make it a little bit more defined and finished. Let's see, right about there. We'll cut that. And yes, I'm cutting through leather with these scissors or with these professional shears, and it does it just like a hot knife through butter. Right here, all the way to the tip, all the way to the tip. I don't cut very straight. I should probably call Susie out. Susie could cut a lot straighter than I could. Here. There we go. That's a little bit better at least. Now it kind of looks like a sew-off piece. Sort of, kind of. Not really. It's still kind of off. Susie's probably shaking her head right now saying, Scott, love you, but that's, yeah, whatever. Oh, okay. I'm going to get this in position and we will buzz down this. And then if there's no other requests, as far as sewing another stitch on one of these other materials, whether it's the denim, we got to do one stitch on the cowhide, right? We got to sew cowhide. So I'm going to press all of you to try to give me a stitch to lay down on this genuine cowhide. And we've only done one stitch on the U.S. Army grade canvas, but that's okay. That'll give Kel more space over here to play with the machine when she gets it back tomorrow. So, but we'll do Susie stitch now on Italian leather. Excuse me. Get the camera in the right position so you can see what's going on. And all right, here we go. I think I got everything set. Stop right there. Oh yeah, yeah, me likes that. That looks really good. That looks really good. Let's rotate that around so you can take a look at that. So I've said it several times, this Emerald Model 116, I consider it a light duty machine, but we just sewed off Italian leather and we did it with a tired universal needle and it laid down some beautiful stitching. Let me give this a clip and we'll take a little bit closer look at it. And so if you have a machine that's been sitting on the shelf for 6 years or longer, and you want to get that machine back into service, reach out to us and we can see if we can help you out with it. Interestingly, I was just on the phone with a customer that's going to be shipping not a Kenmore, what is it? And it's not domestic. It's been a long day. I apologize. At any rate, this customer is from Michigan. They traveled down to Kentucky because they wanted to visit family and had some things to do. They're up around Lexington, which is about 2 hours, 2.5 hours from where Susie and I are, approximately. Well, they decided to take a swing at the bat. And by that, I mean, they found Lexington is a big city, especially considered, if you compare it to some of the cities down where Susie and I are, Lexington's a big city. And they found a sewing place, a sewing vac place, and they took their machine into it. Now I finally thought of the name. It's a new home. It's a new home machine. A lot of you probably have new home machines. They're great machines. Well, they decided to take their new home into this sewing center in the big city. Now, big cities, oftentimes they think they're a lot smarter than all of us in the littler cities. Well, this customer took the machine into the sewing center, explained what she wanted. When she got it back, you've heard me say this before, and I'm not making it up. When she got it back from the big city sewing center, it was worse than when she took it in. The machine that has been serving her for decades, this machine was given to her as a special gift from her husband. It's got sentimental value. When she got it back from the sewing center, after this machine has had reserve power all the time that she's had it from brand new, it's always a machine that just gets the job done. It just gets in there and goes after it. When she got it back, she said they did something to the motor. They did something to the motor where it's slugging now, it's dragging. It's like they messed something up on it. And she said, "Do you think you can fix it?" I said, "Is the Pope Catholic?" No offense to our Catholic friends. I've got a lot of Catholic friends. As a matter of fact, Susie is a former Catholic. And I only say that emphatically to say, you darn right we're going to fix it. And next time, don't take it in to the big city sewing center. They don't understand vintage sewing machines. They don't. Even machines from the 80s are young vintage machines, and they're so different from the circuit board, computer board machines that these techs are working on now. We're talking about electronic computer compared to mechanical. It's so different. And this lady is just beside herself. This is a special gift. My husband gave it to me. I've had it for decades. And so she's going to be shipping it from Lexington, where these people messed it up, down to us in Middlesboro, Kentucky. And us little city folks, little town folks are going to make it right again. You know we will. So just like the machine we got from Canada, if y'all didn't see that live stream, it was several weeks ago. We got a machine from Vancouver, British Columbia, they had taken this machine into a specialty repair shop that works only on FOF sewing machines. That's all they do. They are the experts of the experts. And they had the machine for 5 weeks. And they left scratching their heads saying, it can't be fixed. Find another one. I had that machine running like it was brand new. Ask Susie in about 10 minutes because I knew what to look for. I knew what to do. And then I went in and did all the other fine-tuning adjustments. You can see that live stream where we presented that machine renewed. So you know what? I'm not bragging about us. I'm simply saying we can do a lot of things that other folks can't because we know what to do. It's the same as adjusting tension or anything else. If you know what to do, it's easy. If you don't know what to do, you walk away scratching your head, and that shelf, that machine goes up on the shelf and sits there for 6 years or goes down in the basement and is forgotten and never can delight that sewist again. Am I making sense? I hope I am. So, anyway, let's look at Susie's sew off on this Italian leather, the bird foot stitch. Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice. And again, we're not sewing with a leather needle. We're sewing with a universal needle that I have been beating the daylights out of. But you know what? It's a Schmetz needle. And Schmetz needles, they just keep going and going and going. Very nice. Now I'm curious how our lock stitch will look because I didn't change the tension. And we're going through leather. Let's see how our lock stitch looks. Yeah, I would say all in all, it looks really good. It's kind of a light, there we go. There you can see it now. Yeah, our tension was okay on this one. Our upper tension was pulling hard enough. The bobbin case was not being a bully. And we got a nice lock stitch out of this too. Through Italian leather. And this is in a thin soft. Look at it from the side. Probably about 3, almost 4 ounces of leather. So a beautiful lock stitch. A drop dead gorgeous top stitch through Italian leather. So I'm happy with wrapping up the live stream. I think it's actually past bedtime for the puppies. And Susie has been out there outside of the workshop managing them. So if no one else wants to see anything else sewed off, that's okay. We did a sew off on everything but the genuine cowhide. So I'm going to pick a stitch for this unless somebody else already picked one. Somebody already picked one, then that's totally cool. I'll scroll up and just double check. Scroll up and double check. Make sure that somebody else didn't express a desire in a certain stitch. I don't see anything. So I'm going to pick a stitch for this genuine cowhide. It's just a single layer. And then we'll wrap up this live stream so that all of you can go back to enjoying the rest of your evening. It's going on about 9 o'clock Eastern time. So it's getting later. And I'm going to go with something fairly ornate because we're dealing with leather. And because I have a lot of faith and confidence in my work. I have a lot of faith and confidence in Schmetz needles. I have a lot of faith and confidence in Coates & Clark dual duty XP thread. So we're going to pick something a little bit on the complex side. Right now we're on tier 2 because we're in this gray area right here. So I'm going to pick something from tier 2. Could pick that one or 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 that one. I won't pick that one because Susie just did that one. Does anybody have a strong opinion? That's our stretch straight stitch, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, or number 7. So 1 through 7. Everybody that's in the live stream right now, would you be so kind as to type a number between 1 through 7, and whoever gives us more of that same number, we'll go with majority rules. Okay. So either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. And we're doing this on genuine cowhide, just a single layer. but it's still cowhide, and we're sewing with a universal needle. We're not sewing with a leather needle. And then we're going to wrap up this live stream because it's getting late. It's getting really, really late. Well, it looks like, let's see here. Kelly put 7. It looks like our friend from Vermont. No, our friend from Minnesota. I apologize. Michelle. I think Michelle is avant-garde, right? 78. That's Michelle over in Minnesota, I believe. So I'm going to do 6 and 7. I'm going to do both of them because these are both great stitches. And I want to honor both of these individuals by showing that their voice carries weight in this family. And we're going to do 6 and then we'll do 7. We'll do both of them on this genuine cowhide, okay? Do number 6 and then we'll do number 7. So we're already set on the tier 2 down here. We're going to do 6 and then we'll do 7. So I'm just going to adjust this over from 8. That's 6. And then right after 6, we'll do number 7. Yep, we'll do 6 and then we'll do 7. And I bet you I got somebody's name wrong. Susie's sending me a text to say, Scott, you got their name wrong. If I did, I apologize in advance. I do apologize. When you're doing a live stream, you have to remember to do so many things that I sometimes mess it up. So please forgive me if I get your name wrong. I'm going just from a screen name, and I may have gotten it wrong. Oh, that's Kel? That's Kel? I didn't know that was the machine owner. Is that Kel? Yo, Kel, what's up? Hey, you know what? Kel, check this out. I'm heading back to Wisconsin for some business. You know that. Tomorrow, right after I meet you folks to give your machine back, right? Guess who is playing at Lambeau Stadium in Green Bay, Wisconsin, I believe on Sunday? It's the Green Bay Packers versus who, do you think? Ha ha! I believe it's the New York Giants, isn't it? New York Giants is playing Green Bay in Green Bay. I think it's this Sunday, if I saw it right. That's crazy. Nice. Nice. Very cool. So I'm going to do 6 and then I'll do 7. And it's so great to have the owner here. It's so great to have the owner here. Very cool. All right. So we're going to do 6 first on this genuine cowhide. And then we're going to do 7 right after that. Okay. Let me adjust this a little bit. That's pretty good. All right. So 6 on tier 2 and then 7 on tier 2. All right. Hang on. Hang on. Here we go. I started to get kind of heavy-footed there, didn't I? And you can hear, again, a universal needle does not have the cutting point that a leather needle does. So it's punching through this genuine cowhide. And that's kind of tough. It's kind of tough for a tiring needle to get through the cowhide. But all in all, I'm seeing some good stitching. We'll look at both of these together. Let me do the other stitch, number 7, and then we'll look at the 2 stitches together. But I would recommend if you're going to be sewing, especially on a lighter duty type machine like this Emerald 116, that really is not, it's not a leather sewing machine, but we can pull it off, is that you use a leather needle. And Schmetz has some wonderful leather needles. They sell them generally right at Walmart. But the benefit of a leather needle is it's going to have that point that slices through the leather rather than trying to punch through the leather. And you, when you're punching through leather, once in a blue moon, you'll get something like this. Let me show you that little loop that wasn't complete. See that little loop right there? That little loop that kind of is loosey-goosey on top? That's a product of the needle we're using. The needle that I sewed a lot of sew-offs off camera as well. All in all, it maintained things beautifully. But with a leather needle, that wouldn't have happened. that leather needle would have sliced right through that leather, and that would have been nice and tight. But that's what happens when you use a needle. Universal is universal. They say it pretty much does everything you want it to do, which is true, but it doesn't do it as well as that specialty needle that Schmetz and certainly other needle makers make. But I've got a Schmetz bias. Y'all know that. So now we're going to do stitch number 7, and then we'll look at these two together. And then I'm going to wish you all a good evening. We won't be live streaming or presenting any machines for probably close to 2 weeks, because I'll be gone back to the paint shop in Wisconsin for almost a week. And then I'll be coming back to resume work on these two machines over here. I'll show you these machines real quick. One is a FOF 130, and that one is out of Illinois. I'll be driving through Illinois, not tomorrow, but probably on Thursday. And then this one over here is a 401A, and this one is from Louisiana. So when I come back from Wisconsin from painting a couple of machines, I'll be working on an Illinois machine and a Louisiana machine. And then we'll be ultimately live streaming those two machines. And we'll be back online at that point. So yeah, so just hang with us while we're offline for a little bit, and then we'll get back and have some fun. All right, so stitch number 7 off of tier 2 on Kel's machine. Here we go. Come on, buddy. Oh, I didn't have my take-up arm all the way up. Naughty boy. See, I had my take-up arm was right about down there. All the way to the top. See that? I got to follow my own rules, daggone it. All right, here we go. Stitch number 7, tier 2, final stitch of the evening. All right, here we go. Whoa, slow down, buddy. Slow down. It's not a race. All right, a little bit more gas at the final sew off here. A little bit more gas, but it's still not even close to full power. All right, stop right there. Rotate it around. That is a complex stitch. That is a very complex stitch, and it looks like it was executed to perfection. And that's with a needle that's gotten a heck of a workout, Well, look at that. Let me back up the camera a little bit. That's stitch number 7 on tier 2. Isn't that gorgeous? And other than our single little loopiness that happened, where did it happen? Right about there where my thumb is. Even with all the beating that we've done on this needle off camera and on camera, we laid down stitching that are absolute brag-worthy. Let me clip those threads. We'll get a little bit closer to them. But I want to thank Kel and thank Chris for driving in from where they're at out in Harlan County and giving me an opportunity to bring this machine back and to get it off of the shelf and to give it an opportunity to really shine its light for Kel as she pivots away from the business, the jerk beak business, and starts doing some fun projects on these machines. So let me just get up here. There's our one little loop right there. And that's not the machine's fault. That's the needle. The needle is just not designed for leather. It really isn't. They say it is, but it really isn't. So if you sew genuine cowhide like this, even 3 or 4 ounces, invest in a leather needle. They're not that expensive, and you'll get even better results. But that's some really good looking stitching. Even with especially with a complex ornamental stitch like that. Very complex. Or lock stitching. Yeah, beautifully laid out, but again, a little bit, certain areas we could tighten it up just a little bit. Certain areas we could tighten it up just a little bit more. And that's an easy thing to do. Yeah, beautiful stitching. So during this live stream, let me see if I can grab the stitch off on this end. We ran this machine through the paces, and we went through every single stitch that this Emerald Model 116 has. And that's represented right here on these stitch offs. Let me back the camera up a little bit further. We went through every single stitch, and this machine did its dance. It did its little dance, kind of like the Green Bay Packers are going to be dancing in the New York Giants end zone on Sunday, maybe. I don't know. I think the Green Bay Packers might lose against against the New York Giants, but that's all fun. When Kel and Chris and I met, she had on her New York Giants shirt, I believe it was, her jersey. And so it's always fun to have that little rivalry, isn't it? But you know what, we can all agree, this machine has done a fabulous job. It went through all of those stitches and it just laid down drop dead, gorgeous stitching, top stitching, and also the lock stitching as well. Just absolutely gorgeous stitching. And we gave it an opportunity to flex its muscles a little bit. We went through genuine cowhide. We went through Italian leather. We went through 2 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Whoops. And we went through 2 layers of heavy grade denim. And every single sew off this machine did, it was like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me again. And that's exactly the way it should be. And at any rate, I wish you all a great evening. Thanks again to Kel and Chris and her family for giving me an opportunity to make a difference. Let me turn this machine around so you can see this beautiful Swedish beauty from the front. There we go. Get these sew-offs in a way that you can see them, hopefully. There we go. Cowhide there. I just don't have enough room, do I? I guess I'll have to do this one kind of like that. That's okay. Y'all have a good evening. God bless you all, and keep me in your thoughts. I'll be traveling probably about 1,000 miles, I guess it is. So keep me in your thoughts, and hopefully I have a safe journey, no issues, and get there and get my work done, and then get back here to the mountains of Kentucky. Yep, the mountains of Kentucky. All right, have a great night. I'll put on a little bit more music to wrap us up. Y'all can say your goodbyes, and we'll see you again probably in about 2 weeks, approximately 2 weeks. Okay, God bless. I have to find my music. Where did my music go? My music is somewhere. I'll find it eventually. Bear with me for a second. See, I could put on the royal music, but I'm going to put on Brazilian music. I don't know why. I'm just going to do it. Brazilian music. Ah.